interview with the AFL CEO Andrew Demetriou.
Shut up, Ronnie Weir.
I haven't said nothing.
Plus, we'll have a performance from the Indigenous band Coloured Stone, who are reforming to play just for us here at the Footy Show.
Put the camera on Ronnie for me.
Thursday nights on ABC2. Don't miss it. It's Mangrook.
Great viewing tonight on ABC1, especially when comic actress Catherine Tate sits down for a quiet word.
It's a story of towering highs and bottomless lows. Central District and the Eagles will meet today with the scent of two grand final clashes still hanging in the air. In 2004, the Eagles suffered an all-too-forgettable and ever so humbling defeat at the hands of the Dogs. With the biggest winning margin in grand final history, 125 points, the Dogs savagely staked their claim to the first decade of the 21st century. But the Eagles returned in 2006, stronger, smarter and more determined than ever to write their own little bit of history. And the 12-goal margin sent a clear message to the North that the Dogs are not alone at the top. In 2011, they're sharing the spoils again. With just one loss apiece for the season, Michael Godden and Roy Laird are already eyeing off the prize. They've got just one thing in mind today, and it doesn't involve losing. From the Elizabeth Oval, it just doesn't get better than this. It's round 7 of the SANFL, Central District versus the Eagles.
Welcome to the Ponderosa, and in keeping with that theme, perhaps we will see a shootout this afternoon. These two clubs, Centrals and the Eagles, have met 5 times in the past decade in grand finals, and it hasn't been good, really, for the Eagles.
No, it certainly hasn't. But look, in any other decade, they probably would have secured some of those premierships, but the Dogs dynasty and the way they go about their footy cannot be anything but impressed by the way they've dominated this decade.
Round 7 underway, of course, last night under lights at the Richmond Oval. Westies maintaining their perfect victory it was over Glenelg. Really came storming back into the contest after Glenelg had dominated early.
Yeah, they certainly have improved from last year. There's a renewed belief in their group, and they're now putting some scoreboard pressure on the opposition, as you can see there, with 91 points. Some little habits from last year crept in, and for the Glenelg, Mark Miggin, he's got his troubles down there.
Absolutely, 37-point win for Westies. All the highlights, full highlights at quarter time. And so, when we talk about Central's progress this season, well, it didn't start so well, did it? They had a bye first up, didn't react well to that clearly. They ran up against those Bloods that we mentioned in round 2 and got absolutely hammered. 11 goals the margin.
Yeah, they're certainly up and about, aren't they, West Adelaide, early in the year, and they're playing with a lot of aggression and a renewed intensity, and Centrals just didn't come to play on this night, and they got found out, and but they very quickly turned it around. Roy Laird has certainly they've read the riot act after that performance, and they have quickly responded.
Their only loss for the season by 66 points. They only managed that score of 4-6-30. It was in many ways embarrassing. Let's talk about more recently what they've done. They travelled to Unley Oval last weekend. They took on the Double Blues. There was a theory that the Bulldogs had a problem with small grounds. Indeed, they didn't have a great record at Unley, but you can just toss that out the window.
Yeah, I think it's more, look, Sturt have been a very competitive outfit over the last decade, and they have lost some significant senior players to their group, and Centrals just keep on coming on, and I really believe that Centrals play the best one-on-one footy in the competition, and so whether it's a small or a large oval, it doesn't really have an impact on the way they play their footy.
So with 9 first-choice players on the injury list, they still won by 24 points to Bulldogs. Classy outfit. Let's talk about the Eagles. Speaking of class, well, the bottom of the class for a while this season, weren't they? Because they took on those same double blues under lights at the Adelaide Oval, and nobody saw this result coming.
Yeah, it was a Friday night game, and the double blues jumped out of the blocks and really played with great intensity, used the footy really well, made some great decisions, and finished with goals. And the Eagles never recovered from the first quarter onslaught. They just battled away for the night, and Sturt were up and about. And the scoreboard reflects how the game went. 30 scoring shots to 12. It was really a reflection on how the game was.
58-point victory for the Double Blues. More recently, last weekend, Woodville Oval, Eagles against Port Adelaide, the nearest neighbours in the SANFL. And, well, Port have certainly proven last season in this under Tony Bamford they will be competitive, and it was just that little tiny bit of class that got the Eagles through in the end.
Yeah, they're still a developing group. They had a massive clean out. They've invested heavily in the juniors, and they're starting to reap the rewards of that. But just some class in the midfield, some bigger bodies as far as the Eagles are concerned, got them over the line. But it's really typified the Eagles season. They haven't blown teams away. It's not fluent. It's not really flowing for them yet, but they've just toughed out some ugly wins.
19-point victory for the Eagles over Port Adelaide. The Maggies have the bye this afternoon. They're actually in Sydney to play in the State Leagues Cup. They're playing the East Coast Eagles, so from one Eagles side to another for Port Adelaide, so that's what they'll be doing, and we'll have a result in the news tonight of that match. Well, let's talk about Glenelg North Adelaide, a really close one in round 6. We'll have all the highlights of this match at three-quarter time, but let me say again, the Tigers, well, they need some big finishes to win matches, and they've managed to do it on 2 occasions.
You can't keep relying on that, though, because one day that's not going to happen. That momentum they gained in that last quarter isn't going to happen for them, and both sides have really fluctuated their form. They're good is as good as anything in the competition, but the difference between they're good and they're bad, unfortunately for both Josh Franco and Mark Micken, is too big. They need to close that gap.
And I can tell you the under-18 game between those two clubs was very interesting as well. We'll have all those highlights at half-time. Let's have a look at the premiership table. After last night, Westies clear at the top, but Central's close by, as are the Eagles. The winner of this match this afternoon will then jump up to second place on the ladder. I suppose Central's with percentage might even be able to catch Westies, but they are the top 3 at the moment. Central's and the Eagles second and third this afternoon. Our round 7 fixtures look like this. We know that result from last night. Central's and the Eagles, our match of the day this afternoon on ABC 1. North Adelaide against Norwood at the Prospect Oval, we'll keep you up to date with. And of course the Panthers against Sturt later tonight down at the Noarlunga Oval, where the Panthers have certainly enjoyed some success this season. Well, Central's and the Eagles, let's talk about them head to head. We know in the past decade 5 grand finals they have been in, and we know that the last time the Eagles had a win here at Elizabeth, you have to go back to 2004. Do they want to win today? Because 2004 also corresponds with the pounding by 125 points by Central's over the Eagles in the grand final.
I don't think Mickey Godden would be talking about that in his pre-game, but look, they have been intense rivalry over the last decade, or probably last 15 years, and both the latest clubs in the group, so they've really have developed an intense rivalry through those grand final defeats.
Absolutely. Well, down to the boundary as usual to Mark Soderstrom. And Soders, look, Central's had all those players on the injury list. Are they adding to it, or are we actually going to see some players, the senior players, coming back?
Well, they have added to it somewhat, but there are some great names coming back in the side. We'll start to the problems first. James Gowan's got a nasty cork on the butt cheek a couple of weeks ago against Glenelg. Worked hard to try and get back this week. He was named in today's side, but unfortunately hasn't come up. Really struggled at training last night, so no chance for James Gowans to return. But coming back, perhaps the feel-good story of the year for the Doggies, Chad O'Sullivan. You'll remember he started in the first quarter of that 09 grand final and then snapped the tibia and fibula in his legs. He's back after 19 months, so we look forward to seeing the number 7 back in action for the Doggies. Andrew Hayes returns from a hamstring, as done James Boyd from a shoulder. So those boys are timely boost for the Doggies.
Yeah, a bit of experience back, but in saying that, it's given opportunity to some young blokes, and they've all stood up really well.
I know that a few players perhaps have had their roles changed, Thomas, Sansbury and those guys. Has that been out of necessity, or is that just something you've done to challenge them?
Yeah, no, I like giving blokes new roles. I think it keeps their minds fresh, and again, at this footy club, blokes accept their role, go and do it as well as they can.
Perhaps any others for the rest of this year we might expect to see in different positions? Can you give us a little bit of a sneak preview?
We'll keep one or two up our sleeve.
And Roy Lee keeps challenging this group and they keep producing for him. Interesting, the loss of Jason McKenzie has impacted their ability to get their hands on the footy at hit-outs, and Sutherland's competing really strongly, but their structures and their competitiveness around the footy is really serving them really well and really haven't missed a beat and hasn't had any impact on their game.
And so does, I think, the Eagles. They started the season as thought of as, well, big challenges, top 3 contenders for certain. It hasn't gone all their own way.
Look, they've still been good. They've been able to win 4 games, just lost the one. They're not to their own problem, though, but they haven't played any really of the top sides yet. They're going to get a chance to do that today. They've got some big names missing too. One of those, Trent Henschel. Michael Godden gave him a run in the 2s today. He got through unscathed, played a half down back and then a half up forward. Just had some issues with his back, which has caused some more problems down to his legs. Needed the run, got through, which is a good sign. Justin Sikalella, still about 5 weeks away after he did that damage to the lateral ligament in his knee. Steve Tillowell, he's working his way back from an ankle injury, which he hurt against North Adelaide a few weeks back. Look, he's been named to start at centre-half back. I reckon we're going to see him up forward as he just tries to find a bit of match fitness. And although the Eagles haven't been really successful in this part of the world for a long time, they do come in with some confidence.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we lost our last 7 here, which is not a great record, but the odds are with us, I suppose. So a few more changes today, but we've scraped through at 4-1 and we're looking forward to the big challenge today.
A bit like the Dogs, you've had to manufacture a lot of your side at the moment, given all the changes. How's that going?
Yeah, look, we're just trying to keep our midfield and our backs pretty steady, and then we'll just rotate through the forwards and hopefully we can kick a big enough score.
They've rotated 33 players through their senior group this year, with only 10 actually playing every game. But the important conclusion is Adam Groke. He actually straightens them up, but also he's the premier centre-half forward in the competition. It should give them some potes in their forward line.
Let's have a look at the coin toss. Paul Thomas, now the veteran of the Central side, and Mark McKenzie, the veteran of the Eagles side. Thomas winning the toss, going to the northern end of the ground, and so does explain what that all means.
Well, it's not going to mean too much right at the moment. The sun is out. We've got a bit of cloud cover. Expect the top around about 17 degrees here, so just a touch colder. I think it's 18-degree top in Adelaide today. But look, the conditions are pretty nice. The deck's in super touch. This ground's improved over the years. Used to be a bit of a bog heap probably 10, 15 years ago, but right now it's in good nick, so I wouldn't expect going either way. At this stage with the breeze is going to be an issue.
And as you can see, conditions improving all the time as the players just starting to take up position. Central's still in a huddle. The Eagles are out and ready, and Adam Groke, one of those players, coming back in this afternoon.
Yeah, he's very important for him. Just his running ability. There was some talk that he was a chance to be AFL drafted last year because of his great season he had last year. He's a very hard matchup. He runs hard, and he just keeps presenting himself. So it's going to be a great day. So it's just probably Andrew Hayes will go to him, and that'll be a pivotal matchup to today's game.
Okay, 20 seconds. Give us a winner.
I think you've got it back Centrals at the moment. I think their form is just slightly better. The inclusion of Brad Symes also adds some real running ability for them, and the Eagles just quite haven't at their peak, and I just think that forward line of the Eagles isn't quite functioning as well as Michael Godden would like.
Okay, look forward to a great contest this afternoon, and it's welcome for the first bounce to Chris Kendall.
Thanks, Neil. This should be an absolute cracker of an encounter. I know I'm calling it very early, but we might be seeing a preview of the 2011 Grand Final. Umpires today, Colin Rouston, Lee Housen and Andrew Crosby. Umpires in the middle there. Should be a great battle between Parry and Sutherland. No real breeze to speak of. Scott Lewis going to Paul Thomas. There's one for the purists. Chris Gowans is going to have James Remington by his side today. These two teams capable of playing some super football out on the wide expanses here of Elizabeth Oval. Umpire comes in. Sutherland prowling, looking for the ascendancy. Parry gets the tap down, also gets a secondary tap. Got a pack situation developing. Spur in there for the Bulldogs. We're going to have a ball up.
Just interesting matchup. Roy Laird has actually sent Trent Goodrum to Mark McKenzie. McKenzie's playing across half-back, very creative. Goodrum expecting to do a negating role in the forward line.
Sutherland getting the tap down. Dogs player taken high. That's Spur. Hands off to Sainsbury. Looking out towards the half-forward line. Oh, good strong mark taken out there by Williams. 2 kicks out from goal still. Looks to send it into the forward pocket. Gee, uncontested mark taken out there for the Bulldogs. The form of Obst. Hobbs looking to go to the hot spot. Waiting for a mark at the back. Thomas in there. Lewis relieving for the Eagles. Heard the voice. Out the back. It's through Petrenko. Leaving further down the outer side. A little bit hot for Rayner, but he's got time to recover. Oh, that's an untidy handball. In fact, that's holding the ball. Beautiful tackle out there by Jenner. And see there, yep, had plenty of time to get rid of it. Very untidy. Now it comes into Sainsbury, and he'll relieve from outer wing.
Call to play on. Just drops it in short for Boyd. And the little man between centre wing and half forward. What a pass. Hobbs to gain the lead up. Looks around. Havelberg says get it long. He's decided to go the short option to the Dane Swan of the Centrals lineup. Bit of ink work there for Ryan Williams. Inside 50, well cut off. Havelberg was on the run and Stewart was in the dangerous position. Goldsworthy, good battle with Barmby. And we'll call that a stalemate, and we'll have a ball up 60 from the Central's goal, and on the bench, Sodas.
Big Cameron Milne will come on and do a bit of ruck work later on. Of course, Jay Nash, and great news to see Chatty O'Sullivan back on the pine, ready to play.
If ever there was romance in football, you would have thought Roy Lebb would have put O'Sullivan out there to try and get the first goal. No romance in the Bulldogs side of things. Spur sends it in towards the 50. It's all the Eagles back there, relieving mark taken by Day. Hands off to Jared, who's going to wheel onto that left boot after taking the bounce. You'd think, no, he takes a second. Got plenty of room to move. Always seems to find space very effectively, Jared. That's an interesting bounce. Wouldn't have been out of place at the 36ers. Allman. Little 9-9 over the top. Leaving into space, Petrenko. Heard the voice there from Rayner. Just a little bit hot for him. Lewis drops in to take the mark. Keeping it on the outer side. He was looking for Grokey, but filling the hole neatly is Hayes. Handball's off straight away to Symes. Now Hardy. In the 1-2, chips it over the top. Just to the feet of Spur. He's got time to recover. Back to Symes. Trying to get back into the Adelaide Crows lineup. Plenty of voices out there. One of those is Hardy. The next in the chain will be Hayes. Still at half-back for the Dogs. Looking for Barmby, who takes it cleanly on the grandstand wing, and he puts the skates on and goes. Caught in 2 minds. Does he go for the handball? Does he go for the kick? Went for the kick. Bad decision. And the turnover is with McKenzie.
No score, 3.5 minutes in. Mark McKenzie with the short pass to Stewart. This is Paul Stewart. And he's debut, I think, in a preliminary final. Played in a grand final for about, 5 minutes, and then did the shoulder.
Premiership medal.
So they work it across the centre square. Grieger has improved his kicking. Allman just swings onto that favoured left foot into the path of Petrenko. He's run well from half-back. Boyd pursues him, almost got him. They ran out of room. Just Sodas will go down and have a look at who's sitting on the pine for the Eagles.
Well, Gus Rantry down there, one of the boys that Mickey Godden is a big fan of. Christian Bock will do some ruck work, and Nathan Batley, who snagged the goal with his first kick in SANFL footy last week.
Barmby off half-back. Looking for the centre of the ground. He's looking to try and get the mark out there from Dunn. McKenzie to mop up for the Eagles. Deep ball spills to ground. Williams in there. Gets it out back to Dunn. That was too hot there. McKenzie cut it off, but it's been cut off again by Thomas. Thomas, he's going to have a long shot at the goals. Which way will it bounce? Wrong side of the post for a Bulldogs fan. The ball's still in, as a matter of fact. Snap over the shoulder. Gee, he kept that in beautifully. Havelberg looked like it was going to go for a point, but Havelberg gets the first goal on the board for the Bulldogs.
Fantastic individual work there. Look, there was a good turnover for the Doggies at half-back when Thomas went long. Here's a turnover as we go there. There's great smothering, good pressure, great shepherd out the back. And you can see there Havelberg just gets goal side a Day and just has that presence just to bring it back in. Day just doesn't react quickly enough, and Havelberg makes something out of nothing.
Daniel Havelberg, 16 goals, 4 for the season now. Gets the first for Centrals, and what a brilliant performance. Just aware of his surroundings. Colin Rouston, the umpire there, throwing it up. Sutherland with the tap down. Allman in the action, got one high, surely no. Umpire called play on. Powell flicked it out to Stewart, and then Jarrett on this side of the ground. He'll want to go back to that left leg.
calling, as you can see, his players to come to this side of the ground. Sainsbury, and then knocked away by Lewis, who did well. He was aware of what he had there, and Rayner down the line, interesting. Ran with the ball and play with him out. Staple, and then Powell in a bit of space. Waits for the lead. It comes, he's missed him, and then he's decided to go to him. And not a bad pass, and a two-grabber taken by Tiller. So, Tiller wide out, difficult angle. From here, Andrew, give me a percentage.
Geez, I don't think you're 50-50 from here. You know, look, I'm not totally all over Stephen Tiller's kicking ability, so...
Or his tilling ability,
No,
Stephen Kicker.
Very hard to say that.
So Tiller will kick from just on 50, starts it out to the right, brings it back, and touched on the line. Gee whiz, it was going to be egg all over our face.
It was. But look, and it is important just for their structure, and then he actually does compete strongly up there. As I said, Trent Henschel just struggling a little bit with his body. He's been designated now just to compete strongly up forward and present himself as an option.
Sainsbury kicks to himself. Kicks out a man on the outer side. Spur has had a few important touches. Untidy kick off the boot, but it found Dunn. Dunn, been called to play on. He's going to go backwards. It's a way for Sainsbury to rack up another disposal. Hayes. Now the next one's going to be critical because the Eagles are manning up well. They got one man in space. Oh, and he's just dropped what he should have taken out there, Obst. Now he's going to try and get around the man in Day. Does so. Chips it over the top. That's to the feet of the teammate in Goodrum. He gets it off by hand to Symes. Free kick and advantage. Symes looking to go into the pocket. Cut off well by Petrenko. He's out there looking for Jared. Just beats him over the boundary line. And we're going to have a throw in about 50 metres around from the Central's goal. They are leading by 5 points.
Cannot be not impressed by the Central District's kicking ability, their ability to hit targets, and they lead the competition with marks, and most of those are as a result of their fantastic kicking ability.
Goodrum held his feet well, flicked out the hand pass, didn't quite find who he wanted. Remington and then Grieger. Grieger's disposal was poor. Parry was in there. It was snapped up and hand passed out nicely. James Gowans back to Symes. Symes for goal minus score. So it's a 6-point lead for Central District, and Boyd was the man who flicked that ball out to Chris Gowans, and away go the Eagles quickly.
They do so through Lewis. On the outer side of the ground, the long sliding mark taken out there by Staple. Chips it over the top immediately. Looking for Treeby. Takes it on the chest. Still too far out to score. He's got a player calling for it. Acres of space. That's Goldsworthy. Not the best kick. He had to hit the target. Goldsworthy looks to spin it back into the attacking zone, but it's cut off by Hardy. Hardy, Williams. Now it ends up with Symes relieving off half-back. He's got a player moving in space for him. That's the skipper in Thomas. Thomas looking to go long and deep in towards the attacking zone. Plenty of Eagles back there to try and mop up. One of those is Petrenko. Moves it out to Stewart. AFL players, different teams. Now it's with Jared. The players just come straight off the bench and he's going to get at the next line. That's Roundtree. Unfortunately, it was on the wrong side of the boundary line. So we're going to have a free where Chris Gowans will relieve right in front of the grandstand.
With James absent today, we can just go back to calling Gowans and we'll know who you mean. Right there! So the short one finds Goodrum, who surely's gone round. 2, 3, 4. Finally, the umpire calls him play on. Down the line he goes with a kick. Obs the target from behind Grieger. 6-point game. Centrals inside 56-2. They've managed to put a score on the board, but not much of a score at the moment. Parry perhaps had the better of that. Down looking for McKenzie. Williams on the ground, taps it out. Schiller was desperate. Pick up from Powell was quite brilliant. Away he goes. He's got some support through Goldsworthy as well. Sainsbury comes. Powell can shepherd. He does so. This side of the ground, Rayner's free. Outside him, he's got another player running in Roundtree. And Roundtree can take and go as well. He looks up, waits. Tiller waits as well. And Tiller goes. And Tiller's lead will be cut off. They had the doggies. They were just waiting. It was Hayes who took it, but it could have been Spur. Now back the other way they go.
Back into the corridor to Symes.
Symes has had plenty of the ball early doors. He's lining up for it. Is it going to be Barmby or Hardy? The latter takes it. Chipping over the top. That's to the feet of Obst, who heard the voice and honoured it. Nash. Now it's with Williams. Williams has got time and space to move. He's on the 50. Has a flying shot at the goal. It's not going to be a score. He's out there looking for Havelberg. A little bit too hot for him. Will they try and rush it through? Gee, Jared, that's almost deliberate, surely. Benefit of the doubt under fair pressure. Ball brings it straight back in. The margin for Centrals is 5 points.
Lewis receiving the kick in. They're looking to the far side of the ground. This has been their method thus far. So Allman just holds it up. Short he goes. Grieger. Wouldn't have thought the preferred kick coming out of defence, but Ben Grieger has the ball. Former West Adelaide player. Goes by the nickname Bear.
Kick it now. Play on. Play on.
Finally, he's called to play on. Down the line he goes. Lewis reaching up. Spur took the crumb. Boyd. Gowans flanks him. Gowans towards half forward. Deep with the kick and ineffective. Immediately cut off by Allman again. He can switch play to Jarrett. Now they've got an overlap. Can they use it? Gafrida will be next in line. Can play on as well. They're running through Parry. He dropped it short. Parry was the target, so he obviously didn't kick it. Sorry about that, Craig. Ball back inside 50 as a result of the turnover. And Havelberg just controlled it at the right time. Another goal for the Doggies. He's produced a couple of spectacular pieces of play, Daniel Havelberg, and he's had 2 shots for 2 goals.
And it really is a difference in the game now. There's that turnover there, which is just real thing. Just the cheers is Chad O'Sullivan as he goes on after a long break from league footy. But just a turnover by Aaron Day out of the back. The difference in the game at the moment, the Dogs hitting targets, the Eagles missing it.
I reckon all footy fans, no matter which team you support, have been waiting for this moment. Chad O'Sullivan, 19 months out of the game. It was a similar reaction when Logan Hill came back on after his broken leg for a similar length of time at West Adelaide. And he's gone straight into the attacking 50, O'Sullivan. Ball's back in the centre. Lovely bounce there. Shane Harris will love that one. Gee, Christian Bott, tallest man in the SANFL at 205. Powell gets the centre break. Oh, good strong mark taken out there by Grokey. He's within his range. Wonder if he might look to pass off. He's half thinking about it. Oh, back yourself, big fella.
You think he's thinking about it, Chris?
I reckon he's thinking about it.
Thinking about passing off?
He's caught in 2 minds, a journey of indecision, Andrew. But I reckon we'll back him for this one.
I think he was just thinking about having a shot as soon as he took the mark, Chris.
And to prove us wrong, he's got Scott Lewis leaking into the 50, and he's in a much better position to score.
Cynic, both of you.
Yes.
Scotty Lewis at his 3rd SANFL club. Certainly playing the best SANFL football of his career at the Eagles. Let's have a look at this one. See, Lewis was there for a long time. Beautiful position. From about 35 metres out with the most interesting hairstyle apart from Jason Sutherland out there. Kicks on its way. Only movement from the umpire is 2 fingers. Certainly not much reaction from the hometown crowd, but that's to be expected. Centrals lead by 7 points.
Hey, mate.
And really needed that goal, the Eagles. They sort of hadn't really controlled much of the play. And as I said in the commentary, that Centrals had been a lot cleaner and a lot smoother and made better decisions. And Adam Grokey just shows his class there. And probably poor discipline by the Doggies, you know, to allow Scott Lewis to sneak in 40 metres out directly in front. And their on-ballers needed to push back into that hole and clutter that up.
Busiest player on the ground. Sorry, Neil. Busiest player on the ground, Scott Lewis, 7 possessions.
2-2 to 1-1, and welcome back to Ian Mogridge as well in the stat seat this afternoon. Ball comes clear to Dunn. Goodrum flicked out a hand pass of sorts. Back the other way, Powell. Twice he had it, and twice Chris Gowans had him. Now Schiller breaks free, kicks it forward. Petrenko into a bit of space. Day was back there. Off the left foot was good. Speaking of left foot, here's Lewis. Lewis can go long for Stewart. He missed him badly. Intercepted nicely. Well done by Thomas. Thomas goes short. Williams, I think he wanted to give it to the other man who was in shot then. Not to Nash, but in fact, Chad O'Sullivan, who was lurking. But Nash now will line up 25 metres out from goal.
Yeah, just another turnover out of the fence. It's the second turnover we've seen from the Eagles as they come out of the fence. First one cost them a goal. Jay Nash is generally a classy finisher.
And just off camera at the moment, Chris Gowan's limping off the ground. Mark Soderstrom will fill us in a moment, but they are twins, the Gowans boys, and one of them's injured and another one, by the looks of it, Soders has just injured himself as well, as that was a minor score from that kick at goal.
So Jay Nash, the minor score. You've got to ask yourself, where is Stills? Because we've got umpire Crosby and we've got Nash out there. All we need is Stills and Young, and we've got ourselves a real 70s quartet. Bringing the ball back into play now. Bock. Day flying for it. Just slips through Bock's fingers. Jared at the back. Worried off the ball by Dunn. Trying to keep it in board now. It ends up with Obst. Obst has got a bit of time and space here. Gee, it's all the Eagles back here if it can sit. Just dribbles through for A behind. The margin is now 9 points the Bulldogs' way.
Get out, get out, get out.
Eagles bring it in quickly to Lewis. So for the first time, I think, from my memory, they've kicked it to this side of the ground from the kick-in. Drops it short for Day, just outside defensive 50. Jared with the lead up. Day's kick a little bit to his feet, and he slides in, and then Dunn came over the top. Umpire called play on. Now Jared's hooked it back in, and he's gone.
Drag it in, let him up,
Chris Gowan's heading down to the rooms by the looks.
Yeah, right there. Right.
Further treatment. So as we done with the free kick, came a long way inboard without being called to play on.
Play on. Guys.
Stewart at the back, took it rather easily, and that'll be 25. Milne just cribbing over the mark straight away. So Stewart will be brought outside defensive 50 for the Eagles. Those inside 50s again, 13-4 in favour of Centrals. The Eagles have been under siege. Stewart looks, decides to come wide for Roundtree. Come back Boyd, the shorter man, did very well, and then flicked out a hand pass, missed his man badly. Goldsworthy, well, he was in traffic and didn't know where to go either. Dunn stood his ground. Boyd surrounded by Eagles, 4 on the 1, and Dunn Boyd managed to force the ball over the line.
For all their domination, as you said, Neil, 13-4 inside 50s, they really haven't put enough pressure on the scoreboard for the Eagles, and at some stage, I think the Eagles are going to get some of the footy in the midfield and give their forwards some opportunities.
With this kickstart football that's being employed, between them, the two sides are averaging more than 2.5 kicks per handball.
Good to see long kicking football, or at least kicking football back in the SANFL. That'll certainly keep the purists happy. Less handball. No argument with that. Ridden into the ground there is a Remington by Williams. That's going to be holding the ball. Over at the Prospect Oval, Nord leading North Adelaide by 4 points in the first term. Williams, grandstand wing, got caught in two minds with the kick, ended up honouring the lead from Hayes. They're still at the defensive side of the centre square. Hey, almost a nice mark taken out there by the umpire. I did end up with Sansbury. Sansbury puts on the afterburners, looks to go long and deep into attack. Mark taken right in front there by the skipper, Paul Thomas. And Andrew Rogers, you wouldn't think he'd miss from there.
No, you wouldn't think so, but that's all come about because the Eagles' half-forward line didn't push down, and you can see Sansbury in space there. They didn't pick up the most dangerous bloke. They let Sansbury in the middle of the ground. There were a number of Eagles players goal side of Eddie Sansbury. They should have pushed down, closed that space down, and made the Dogs go further backwards to work around that zone.
Right with the skipper, one of the most decorated players to pull on a Bulldogs jumper. Not too much wrong with his goal kicking either. That brings the margin out to 15 points, and danger signs now for the Eagles.
Yeah, and good reward for the way they've dominated the early quarter there. And Thomas, probably almost in career best form. He's a glittering career, but he almost in career best form. Going head-to-head with Lewis at the moment. Lewis just lost him there in traffic. You can see that Aaron Day come through. It's not his player. It's actually Lewis's player, and it's a fantastic battle there in the midfield.
Thomas 4 possessions, Lewis 9, including 8 marks, all uncontested though.
By hand, guys, by hand underneath the line.
So the ball back in the middle. And Thomas taking a seat on the bench for a bit of a break. Sutherland opposed to Parry, who got the tap down. Sutherland followed up pretty well. And Symes just accidentally getting one high. Accidents count, free kick. Symes quick to check the rear view mirror to see what was there. Obst on the long lead. He was the target. Petrenko sits under it. Obst with a 2 grabber. Nicely done. Havelberg signals kick it long, boy. And he goes long to Havelberg. And he's being held by Grieger, and he couldn't get the hands free. And it slides through for the minor score.
St Obst is causing plenty of headaches for the Eagles. He's too nimble, too quick. Hasn't been given enough respect by Aaron Day.
Looking for a mark from Parry, who tried for the towering grab out there over Jenner. Looking for that out in the grandstand wing. Mark or free kick. It's beaten them both over the boundary line. It's going to be a throw-in. Treby couldn't quite hold it. Yeah, the Eagles really do need a goal just to steady before quarter time. Parry, big pumper Sutherland, Roundtree at the fall of the ball. Symes, just make sure he's not going any further. We're going to have a ball up. Brad Symes has been busy early doors also. I reckon he's had 7 or 8 touches so far. We'll get that from Ann Mogridge in a second. He's had 7. There you go. Eagles player wrapped up in a tackle. We're going to have another ball up. There's Gefrader in there. Sutherland, Parry. Third man up with Spur. Punched it straight down to Allman, unfortunately. Gee, Eagles player could have almost been done for holding the ball. Nothing doing. Paul Stewart's fine with that. We're going to have a all-in.
Again, domination of the play by Central District. As they do, imposing themselves on the ball. Dunn tried to knock it forward. Now there was holding off the ball. That's the reason Parry, the ruckman for the Eagles, couldn't get to it.
Thanks, House.
Chad O'Sullivan was looking to find that ball then and maybe get a cheap stat. His first, would it have been, Moggy?
What's the elbows?
Yes, it would have been. It's Eagles' first free kick here too. The Centrals have had 6.
Parry, in short for Day. He almost dropped it. Now running on the far side of the ground, Grieger. There's nobody in front of him for maybe 50 metres, so he can take a bounce and go. Obst follows, Gefrida with the shepherd. Grieger with the kick in fire inside 50. Wasn't the greatest. Going to the ground was Grokey. Hardy took care of him and then receives a hand pass from Sutherland. Back through the corridor, which they've dominated thus far. Sansbury off quickly. The chase comes from Jared Sansbury, too much toe. Inside 50 with a kick. Here's O'Sullivan, his first opportunity. O'Sullivan taken down solidly in the tackle. Petrenko played no favourites, picked up the ball, surely still held by the leg. It's play on. Stewart with a 1-2 to Remington. And now Stewart down the line has Allman available, and Allman with the left leg looks inside, nothing there for him.
So he's going to have to steady just to try and hold up and burn a little bit of time while they get some numbers out there. Eagles under siege at the moment. Just need to try and get something moving through Remington. Now he chips back inboard. Got Grieger, very distinctive kicking style. Stewart, see, that's a little bit hot for him. That's a sloppy disposal really from the Eagles. Under no real pressure. Going to have a throw-in. Just having a look at that one from Grieger. Yeah, you really want to hit a target in that situation, particularly when you're trailing by 16 points. Working at the back of the pack is Allman. Almost caught in there. They've got time through McKenzie. Goes back to Allman.
Got it.
Now it's Petrenko, who plays that loose man role so effectively. Switches back inboard where Day's got a bit of time, a bit of space. Needs to try and hit the next target. He elects to go back to Petrenko. Gee, that's another poor disposal by the Eagles. There's only Schiller between Petrenko and Roundtree, and that was enough to create another turnover and another opportunity for Centrals to try and score on the edge of quarter time.
It wasn't good from the Eagles again. Under pressure and perceived pressure as well. Jenner slips it to Obbs. Should have a goal here. Just read it nicely off the pack. And Obst was in space 20 metres out, and the Eagles really have no answer at this stage, Andrew.
Yeah, it's as a result of that forward pressure. They certainly had some opportunities to get it out of the forward line, but didn't trust their ability to hit targets. And eventually there's Obst who turns it around the corner. And look, he's been instrumental in this first quarter. He's certainly presented himself beautifully across half forward.
Got to start to wonder, is the sleeping giant that is the Bulldogs starting to awaken? 2 weeks ago, the Eagles were so effective against Nord in the loose man department. Mackenzie, Petrenko, Jared, they've all been clamped on very heavily by the Bulldogs thus far. Thomas gets the handball away, Sainsbury, and that's the siren for quarter time, which has been one of dominance for the Bulldogs. If it had only been better kicking, it would have been a lot further for them. But at quarter time here at the Elizabeth Oval, it's Central District 4-5-29, leading the Eagles 1-1-7, Andrew Rogers.
Yeah, the Doggies have really dominated this contest. They certainly have used the ball better when they've got it. They've made cleaner decisions and better decisions than the Eagles. And the Eagles just started to panic a little bit there towards the end. They didn't trust their kicking ability. They didn't trust their decision-making to hit these targets. And they're reluctant to kick down the line. So just turnovers have hurt them, cost them a couple of goals and a couple of scoring shots. It's the Central Districts of what we've come to expect. It's now the challenge for the Eagles to say, OK, we need to lift ourselves. We need to work harder. We need to run and create better. And that way, they'll get themselves back into this contest.
Quarter time here at the Elizabeth Oval. It is the Central Districts Bulldogs leading by 22 points.
Solid performance from the Bulldogs thus far with that lead. Out to 22 points at quarter time, and the job right in front of the Eagles, who haven't been great in first quarters anyway.
No, they've lost. They've only won one quarter out of the first 5 this year, so it's certainly not panic stations. But they were very stagnant then. There was no run and carry. There was no link up through the midfield. They haven't used the corridor, so it's certainly some things for Michael Godden to address.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with our look back at what's happened in round 7 thus far, and we'll go back to last night. Westies and Glenelg under lights at the Richmond Oval, and certainly, well, you thought this was going to be a real contest for Westies, and as it turned out, Glenelg gave them a real touch-up early on. They had a lot of possession, both sides difficulty in kicking goals early, but in the long term, Glenelg managed to get out by 20 points.
Yeah, certainly last season, West Adelaide struggled to kick winning scores. They certainly were very good defensively, but struggled for key targets up forward. Had movement of the footy, the transition from defence, where certainly something that Andy Collins has worked on over the pre-season. You can see they're kicking winning scores now. They're actually moving the ball quicker and giving their forwards more opportunities. And for the Bays, as I said, it's just a bit of Jekyll and Hyde at the moment. They're up and they're down. You can see they're up at the stage, and you can see that they're up and about with plenty of energy. But all of a sudden, can't maintain that for long periods of time.
Yep. West Adelaide goalless in the opening quarter, but as you can see, they did come back hard. 23-minute mark of the second term, they were leading by 20 points, the Tigers. And in fact, West Adelaide's first goal didn't come to the 11-minute mark of the second quarter. Now, after that, they booted 14 goals 2 to Glenelg's 4 goals 6.
And that's just a lack of intensity by the Bays. Something like that, it's very hard to change that momentum in a game. If Glenelg had the momentum, you would expect them to go on and continue that momentum. And it's a great reward for West Adelaide, because they've obviously persisted longer than Glenelg, and that would be the worrying sign for Mark Micken. It's nothing to do with ability, nothing to do with how they're going about their footy. They just can't maintain it for long periods of time. So that's a concentration thing. It could well be a fitness thing, but certainly they have plenty of troubles down there. There's just a fumble. That's a concentration thing. And therefore you see Daniel Webb just sneaks in, links Daniel Webb. No, actually Lobe goes in and kicks an easy goal. So
kicked a couple of goals in the final quarter, and we must stress that in that final quarter, Westies were down numbers because they had a couple of injuries. Jason Davenport was off the ground with an ankle injury, and Matthew Rankin definitely with a leg injury as well. And Logan Hill left the ground as well with a bit of a head knock, and we're going to see that in a moment as we look at that scoreline there. It was fairly comfortable. Now that's a head knock that ultimately in the third quarter resulted in a report for Todd Grimer. I'm not sure there was a lot in it, and yet, as I said, Logan Hill left the ground, went down into the rooms and spent a good part of the final term on the bench.
We know the umpires, their head's sacrosanct as far as the umpires are concerned, so they're always going to react to that. And players are becoming very good at milking free kicks for too high.
37-point victory for Westies last night. Under lights still unbeaten through 2 seasons under lights at the Richmond Oval. 5 wins and 1 loss, top of the ladder, and Central's looking good to join them with that 5 wins and 1 loss this afternoon. Thus far, the Eagles in 3rd position. Glenelg still clinging to a place in the top 5, although not impressively at the moment, nor a Norwood for that matter. Just through those leading goal kickers, Matt Doldig, we saw him kick 8 goals at the Unley Oval a couple of weeks ago. 21 goals leading the way, not a bad comeback for a man who was decided to leave Glenelg. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, played in the country last year, and to come back and have that sort of impact. And Sturt aren't really powering away, are they? They haven't been the Sturt of previous years. So to have that sort of result, you know, is a fantastic effort for Matthew Dold. He's still only 26 years old, I think, so still plenty of good footy left in him.
Yes, originally from Millicent down in that zone of Glenelg, and they'll be very happy with the footballers they collect from down in that zone. Roy Laird doing the talking and no doubt instructing his players. Let's just go on with it because they have been just so good.
They have, and it's just the Central Districts of old. The pressure on the footy. Look, they maintain their structures around the stoppages, and that serves them really well. But where they win a lot of their games is just their work when they haven't got the footy. You know, the games, you know, it's we've got it, you've got it, ball's in dispute. They win the disputed footy, but when the opportunity to get it, they just work their butt off to actually get it back. And that's, you can see those goals, those turnovers as the Eagles come out of the fence are as a result of just the work rate and the competitiveness and the pressure that the Central District's forwards are putting on.
It's the old Alan Jeans line, wasn't it? There are 3 phases of the game. They got it, you got it, or it's in dispute. Central seem to be good at all those areas. Mark Soderstrom, been listening in.
Absolutely, very good in all those areas. Chris Gowans, we saw him limp off. He just rolled his ankle a couple of weeks ago, re-injured it, so they've strapped that, giving him a bit of pain relief, so he should be right to continue. A couple of areas that Roy Laird just pointed out to his players. One was taking care going forward, just wants them to square it up a little bit. Normally very disciplined in that area, just something he felt they were a little lax in. The other one was just getting players back. The Eagles got their goal, he felt, because the players didn't go back and fill holes in the 50.
Thanks for that, Sodas. Big Jason Sullivan getting some instructions from Roy Laird there, and a quick look through the stats at quarter time.
Yeah, just been more decisive with the footy. You can see their kicks, handballs very similar, but just their ability to hit targets has been better. The marks, you know, the Eagles have really had a high. That's a lot of marks in the first quarter. So it's a real chip stop, no momentum, no flow. They really need to see if they can link up in this second quarter. The Doggies, when they've taken marks, they've played on quickly and really moved the ball.
And set for a start to the second term. Here's Chris Kendall.
Watching Michael Godden there at quarter time. He seemed fairly measured about things. Michael Godden, not the sort of coach who's ever going to rant and rave like that, but they certainly need to find a bit of a spark somewhere as they trail by 22 points here against the Bulldogs. Milne. Parry got the double-handed tap down. Ridden straight into the turf. There was McKenzie just trying to get the handball away. Allman in there also, and we're going to have a ball up. We'll cross to Ian Mogridge in a sec for some of the leading possession getters in that first term. Parry gets the tap down. It was a little bit hot for his teammate in Lewis. Sitting under it for a long time is Boyd. Now it comes back to Powell. Powell's set upon straight away by Thomas, and we're going to have a ball up. Ian Mogridge, some of the leading possession getters in the first term.
Thanks, Chris. The top 3 were all for the Eagles. Scott Lewis has had 9, Jared Allman and Pete... what's his name? Stewart. Paul Stewart's had 8 for the Dogs. Brad Symes and Alan Obst have both had 7.
Free kick to the Eagles at the stoppage. It's going to be with Parry on the defensive side still of the centre square. Not quite a centre break just yet. Right on cue. Thanks, Craig. Kicks it out long, looking for a mark, and it's taken out there by Grokey, playing a long way up the ground. Just chips a little 7-iron into the forward 50. He was looking out there for Treby, who's been held, and he's going to get a free. About 45 metres out from goal. This is not beyond his range, Andrew.
No, certainly well within range. I thought it was a little bit soft, but good by Grokey just to play on and move the ball quickly. But Sutherland's getting back very quickly and filling that hole in front of this. And Lee Treby, good reward for competing.
Yeah, Grokey's never going to be the sort of centre-half forward that'll kick 5 or 6 goals, but you know you can rely on him for a dozen marks or so and plenty of possession. Certainly such a key towards the Eagles. Now we're with Treby, who's also had a visit to the tattooist in his lifetime. I must touch some of mine up at some stage. Truby kicks on its way. That's looking beautiful off the boot. Second goal for the Eagles. The margin is now back to 16 points. 2 minutes into the second term.
Yeah, and an important goal for the Eagles. They really needed to get the first goal of the quarter. There's Groke. He just plays on quickly. Just a good awareness of what's around him. And there's Truby. Just makes a contest here against a number of Central District's opponents. In the end, the free kick's fairly soft in the context of the game, but importantly, he's grabbed that opportunity. Just interesting, Mark McKenzie, the tag of Goodrum has seen him move into the middle now. So Roy Laird will have to readjust that tag.
Opposed to Chris Gowans on the far side of the centre circle there, you'll see. Now, Milne was quickly across, palmed it down beautifully to Williams, and Powell with the tackle.
The moment I left my hands, he crossed the line, he just created position. He's all right.
Colin Ralston with the explanation of why the ruckman and Milne was allowed to do that. Parry comes over the top this time. Down to half forward it goes. And the target was Spur, who did so well inside, and just on the 50 is Paul Thomas, and we know they'll look to 30 metres out, but Paul Thomas is capable of carrying the distance. Thomas. He decides to go for Jenner. It falls over the back to Gafrida. And Gafrida takes it towards the line. Oh, and Jenner just tapped it back. Chris Gowans did well. Now Obst looked to the middle, decided there was nothing there, hooked it back for the minor score.
They're just very patient. Thomas was really patient then. He just waited for someone to keep working and the second and third leads and blocks to come into fruition. Eventually didn't work for him.
Jared. Gee, good mark taken it there by Obbs. He's having a very important game thus far. Too far out to score. Unless he gets a 25-metre penalty, which will bring him right back to within kicking distance. Bit of a lack of discipline here from the Eagles, Andrew.
Yeah, Jared Allman went to stand the mark, and then Aaron Day went back, and Jared Allman goes over the mark. We get a look at this on a replay. There's Jared Allman. He comes out. Aaron Day, you can see, sucked back into space trying to fill a hole, and the umpires deem that Jared Allman's gone over the mark.
Obbs certainly bubbling up today. 70s fans of Port Adelaide may remember that reference. But we're with the Andrew variety. Unloads, kicks on its way, it's drifting very slightly, but makes it through the centre. Margin now out to 23 points as Obbs gets his second.
Yeah, I've really liked his game today. The centre half forward in the Central District's plan plays a big role, and there's that kick out to Day Wide. Obbs just gets a ride up there, and it's indiscretion. Eventually, you see there that Allman comes back. And umpire deems going. Just little basic things, I suppose, is leading the Eagles down at the moment. But Central seem to have all the answers. 23-point lead, Obst with the last 4 scores for Centrals. 2 goals, 2 is his tally in that period. He's actually got 2-3 for the afternoon. So Parry this time with a free kick, and it'll be a centre break, and things had broken down. Mark McKenzie, you couldn't run away with that one. And McKenzie working hard, inside forward 50 now. He did get a block. He's still working hard, and Parry, meanwhile, has decided to go to Petrenko. Petrenko down the line towards half forward. Remington with a nice mark. Parry's run on through the corridor. They decide to go wide for Goldsworthy instead, and the ball's turned over. Barmby did pretty well. Williams and then Thomas and Barmby again, who hasn't got a left foot, can you tell? And he's taken down on the tackle, and Goldsworthy with a fumble, the ball over the line between half forward and centre wing. But it's a good call. Craig Parry needs, and the Eagles ruckman need to get dangerous because Cameron Milne pushes back into the hole. They need to be able to get dangerous so they can be used, as a hit-up target, so to make Cameron Milne accountable.
The Eagles player ridden into the turf. It's going to be a free kick to Powell. That was certainly a creative attempt at a disposal from Barmby. Powell looking out there for a lead and gets it from Grokey. He's strong with the hands. Chips it over the top. Got a player moving into space in the form of Tiller, former Western Bulldog who originally started at West Adelaide. One of 5 players on the Eagles list to have played at other SANFL clubs. Stephen Tiller. Not really noted as a goal kicker. My goodness. These adornments on the players nowadays, things have changed. I know I sound like I'm about 58 by saying that. Tiller unloads. He needs to allow for the breeze. Oh, that's a lovely kick from Tiller. That's his first, and the Eagles' third for the afternoon. They narrow the margin back to 17 points.
And with Cameron Milne filling that hole, there's Groku starting to get busy. See where Tiller's having to force to be lead. He's having to force to be lead into the pockets, and they're wide pockets here at Elizabeth. But it's a fantastic kick from that thing. But once again, a badly needed goal. But I think importantly now for the Eagles now, they're actually putting some score on the board, which actually in turn puts some pressure back on the Dogs.
21 games for Stephen Tiller with the Western Bulldogs during that time. Apparently, according to Andrew, he wasn't taught how to kick properly for goal, but somebody at Oval Avenue's doing the job. So the ball back in the middle. Milne again deciding to step across. Parry with a toe poke, and literally in the centre of the ground will get that secondary ball up. Parry looking for Powell. Dunn away for centrals towards centre wing. Goodrum leads the chase for the ball. Williams lets him have it, and then Shepherds, and then into half forward with a kick to find Thomas. Thomas on this side of the ground, gee, he had a target, and instead working hard back into traffic was Goodrum, and able to take the mark again in that zone. 25 out from goal. The Dogs just do this so well.
Yeah, it's certainly the wide open spaces of Elizabeth allow you to get that kick over the top, but that's Goodrum who kicks the footy there. Lewis is alongside him. So let's see who works the hardest here. There's Goodrum, just you can see him just outside the screen. So Lewis just didn't work as hard back and give Goodrum that respect. So
can restore a 23-point lead for Centrals, but instead they've just extended their lead to 18 points. That was a poor kick from Trent Goodrum, his former club, the East Coast Eagles, playing this afternoon in that State Leagues Cup against Port Adelaide.
Lewis takes the kick in, takes the mark from the kick in, chipping over the top where Day takes it. Slow and patient build up for the Eagles.
Kick it now, Daisy.
He's been called to play on. Keeping it on this outer side. Yeah, good strong mark taken out there again. Oh, he was off, he was gone. Beautiful tackle out there by Hardy.
Hey, call it, wait. You got the free, no need to carry it afterwards, all right?
Yep.
Hold up, wait.
Colin Rouston telling him you've already got the free, no need to do that sort of stuff. Rods him into the turf, young Grokey.
Play on.
Now it's with Symes. He's faded out in the last 15 minutes or so. Had a very busy start. Got a player moving out for him in the form of Hines. Symes to Hines. That'll be fun later on. Hines looking to go long and direct. Thomas slides in. Thomas takes the mark. That brings the grandstand to its feet, and rightly so. Goes long and deep into the attacking zone. That was a little bit too hot for Obst. Eagles have got numbers at the back. Stewart, Jared, who's going to go onto the left foot. It's proved me wrong, he goes onto the right. Petrenko. Now he goes over the top where we've got Mackenzie. Petrenko. Needs to try and move the ball forward. It's giving the Bulldogs plenty of time to get numbers back. Going long and deep into the foreline. Almost taken out there by Grokey. Bulldogs relieve. Looking for Williams. He was patient. He waited. Just slipped through his fingers ever so slightly. Free kick there is going to be for the Eagles, and taking that will be Roundtree.
Roundtree just burrowing in. Ryan Williams saying, well, I had something in my eye. I couldn't sling the ball back. And in fact, he wants to train it. So maybe that was fair dinkum, or maybe it's his nose that's causing his eyes to water. In any case, he gave away 25. On the edge of 50, Roundtree, who won't make the distance. He's aware of that, so he squares it to Graffita, who won't make the distance either. That was touched. You heard the umpire call it. And as a result, well, Parry with a brilliant hand pass. Graffita can make it from that distance. And he does. Labour intensive, not pretty, but effective. And his first goal in league football, Patrick Graffita, down from half-back. Let's have another look at how he did it.
Yeah, more renowned as a Dow defender, but just worked their way through. You can see it's tough for the Eagles, though. They had to work hard to get that goal, and just be clean as they go forward, I suppose, would make it a lot easier. But that's good reward. They're starting to win some contested footy, and their persistence is now starting to pay off.
Now before that, Patrick Gafrida had the second longest break in SANFL of a player without a goal. 29 games. The pressure's really on Damien Cunningham out at North Adelaide now, who's playing his 57th game without troubling the scorers. Sutherland gets the handball away to Gowans. Thomas, centre break. All the Bulldogs back here. Oh, a very untidy effort from Staple. He needs to try and go back in and create the stoppage, if nothing else. Picking the pocket is Roundtree. He's wrapped up in a pack of Bulldogs, and we're going to have a ball up. Great defensive pressure from the Bulldogs. Umpire throws it into the turf. Thomas gets the hit out. Not a stat we call that often, but he's in everything today. Boyd wins the tackle. Sandwiched in there now is Goodrum. They're trying to scoop it out. Umpire's giving them plenty of opportunity. Does come flying out. They're taken high. It's going to be to the Bulldogs. He's throwing the ball back. He won't want to be too aggressive about it. Thomas goes long. He's out there looking for Dunn. Slipping out the back of the pack there is Spur, who is just taken there on the package by Petrenko. Going to have a ball up about 20 metres out from the Central's goal. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, you've got to be a bit careful with that sort of stuff, particularly with the real crackdown they're doing on head-high tackles. Clearing it out now is Day, and he's got Allman moving into space with Nash.
Good one-on-one collision. Rayner comes in to lend assistance for the Eagles. Interesting hand pass. Lewis, he's a left footer. He's usually pretty good. That one, Barmby just managed to cut off in front of Remington. Now Grokey. Oh, he wanted the contact and he got one high.
This all because, see there's Jay Nash jumping in the air. He needs to keep his feet planted if he's going to tackle. As soon as you jump in the air, you lose momentum, but also you're jumping and the player's going to get it too high.
So while we were watching that replay, it was a 25-metre free kick for Grokey. So he's about 70 from goal. And he waits. Goldsworthy leads short. He can come this side today. He's been called to play on, now he's in trouble. So he goes even wider. This is what the Doggies do. They're now some 40 metres further back than they were. Petrenko between centre wing and half forward. Nothing moving ahead of him. He signals and decides he's going to take him on. Good little step around Thomas and then into half forward. The kick picked off by Havelberg, the full forward. Gauges how many Doggies are back in defence.
And one of those is Jenner. Can see handball over the top to Symes. Symes, he's just caught in a bit of a journey of indecision. It's going to end up with Jenner again. It's going to be at his feet. He's got plenty of time to recover. And chip it over the top. He was looking for Chris Gowans. He still keeps working hard. He's going to go back to Jenner again. Gee, Jenner must be loving this passage of play, racking up the stats. Ian Mogridge going frantically on these. Chips over the top for Goodrum. Sends it out long. There's plenty of Eagles back here if the ball can sit for them. One of those is Petrenko. Trying to get the hand away is done. He's set upon straight away by Batley. Going to have a ball up. Eagles' pressure has been a lot better this quarter. You sense they need another goal though, just to try and narrow that gap a little bit further. Bulldogs attacking. Goodrum's back running with McKenzie now. Bock with Obbs. You'd back Bock in that one with the height advantage. Slips through for Roundtree. Oh, good work in heavy traffic. Got to hit the target with the next one and does. Or it's Stewart. Stewart looking in the centre of the Elizabeth Oval. Remington hands off straight away to McKenzie. McKenzie takes a bounce. He takes a second. He's got time to measure up his options. He was looking for Day. Goes through his fingers. Beautiful work out there from Jenner to cut it off. Now the Bulldogs have got numbers moving into space, and one of those is Hardy, who's going to relieve after a fervent offensive pressure from the Eagles.
Just nothing ahead of McKenzie for a lead up from the square. They'd all been caught up the ground. So Hardy, who has the short option available, and he takes it. This is Hayes. Hayes in turn to Symes. He can go further back in defensive 50, Chris Gowans. And they've opened up the far side of the ground. They just took their time though, didn't they? Hines took too much time, considered it for too long. Just a little bit too much beans in the kick. Beans means Hines. So let's have a look over at the Prospect Oval. Norwood by 3 points over North Adelaide. Of course, Westies victorious by 37 over Glenelg last night. We've got another match to come tonight. with the Panthers hosting Sturt down at Noarlunga. The Eagles go forward again. Remington couldn't take it. Nash was in there at the feet. Now they're off and running. Symes feeds Jenner. Jenner in turn, long and direct and just working so hard off the ball. Dunn. And Dunn can shoot around on his left foot from 49 metres. He thumps it and taking no chances, or was it? Was it a goal or not? Wait on the umpires. They're going to have a bit of a chat. Goal umpire says no, it's a mark. Obst will go back and kick the goal. He didn't want to take any risks. And from that range, it's too easy.
Yeah, it's a great transference to play to the fence. They came to the grandstand side. There was plenty of space. Just their kicking skills again. They were able to hit targets all the way down. That's good play by Dunn. He just moves the ball quickly. He just rolls onto his natural leg. It's going to go through for a goal, but like all good forwards, Alan Obbs decides to take a mark and kicks his third for the game. As I said, he's having a significant influence on this game.
Yeah, they're struggling to find a matchup for him at the moment. Grieger's gone to him.
Yeah, I think that's a better matchup. I think Day was struggling with it. So Day can now go to Havelberg and Grieger can come out and do a defensive role on Obbs. Yep.
So Milne against Bott. Gee, that height of Bott. I'll tell you, he's only 5 centimetres shorter than Aaron Sanderlands. Goodrum, bit of a sloppy handball. He heard the voice of Sainsbury. It was a little bit too much for him. Player taken high, there's Roundtree. It's going to be a free to the Eagles.
Straight up. Go.
Got a few options presenting for him. Legs to go over the top in space. Now it ends up with Stewart, who's been mown down by Schiller. That's holding the ball. Beautiful work there from Jared Schiller. Now at the moment on his iPod is listening to Rebecca Black's Friday. Well, I guess we've got different music tastes, that's for sure. Eddie Sainsbury. I don't know if I'd admit to having that on my iPod personally. Chips over the top where Havelberg's moving a long, long way up the ground. Got players moving on his outer side, but elects to go longer. Looking to keep the attacking zone, or Big Mark almost taken out there by Dunn. Going to have a throw in. Let's just have a look back here. That was beautiful work there from Schiller. Absolute copybook for the young kids at home. You don't get much better than that. Real desperation, particularly with Stewart having such acceleration. Oh, now it's in the path of O'Sullivan. Is there a fairy tale in football? Not at the moment. There's not for Chad O'Sullivan. His eyes lit up. Margin's out to 20 points. Just needed to bring that back a little bit more.
Yeah, and then look, he'll get better with this. I mean, he's only his third game back. You can see there, he just tried to guide that through. As his confidence returns, he'll take the opposition on with his pace and run and carry that closer to the goal.
Staple called to play on. Long kick. Dunn comes across the front. Brave stuff. Big collision. Dunn with the ball on the ground now. Did he rake it in? Now he's being tackled. Umpire says he'll have it.
Yes, look, that's fantastic courage and fair. Look at both players with their eye on the footy. Did not take their eye off the footy, and then both have recovered strongly. That's fantastic by two young emerging players in the SANFL.
Rayner was the other man, the Eagle man. Goodrum down towards half forward. Everything going to O'Sullivan. Now he can straighten, and he decides to go around the corner, and this time it floats for another minor score. You can see the crowd and the grandstand just willing that one to go through.
You can, and don't worry, Gowans let him know there was a handball on. So, you know, they need to maintain their standards. Though there's fairy tales, I'm sure that he's still got to play to the team disciplines.
Bulldogs cut it off well. It's a bad bounce out there for Jenner, but he's done enough to create the stoppage and the ball up. Chris Gowans having another spell. He's having a bit of trouble at the moment. We'll get Mark Soderstrom onto that shortly.
Just Chris Gowans make it very clear that he wasn't happy that handball didn't come from Chad O'Sullivan.
Oh, gee, he was flat-footed when he needed to be moving. Didn't hear the footsteps of Grokey behind him, who tries to get it away, but the Bulldogs have got numbers now. Hines is the next one. It's just a little bit too hot for him. Now we're going to see a real contest for the purists. Oh, good work out there to Boyd. Just fumbles what he probably should have taken. Hines goes back into butter up. He heard the voice of Williams, a little bit too hot for him. Schiller. Jarrett has been fairly quiet today. Powell wheels around, dropping into the space there is Goldsworthy. Had Stewart calling for it, goes by hand. It's to the left side of Jarrett, who should load up. and go long and deep. Caught in position A out there was Hardy. A little bit too hot for him. Remington gets the handball around. He's called a throw. It looked rather hot. So free kick to the Bulldogs. Have another look at that. Yep. Didn't quite get the full hand on it. Jenner leaving out into space. And it's going to end up now with Barmby.
Barmby looks for the chip to Jenner. Thomas peeling around the back so he can square it through the corridor. And he decides against that. Nobody comes to him, so he keeps bouncing. Then his kick carries a little bit too far, but they do have numbers there. McKenzie comes through and just upsets the apple cart just slightly. Jared slides in. Crowd wants holding the ball. Initially he got one high. Umpire blindsided, couldn't see it. Change coming with Hayes going back defensively, and Justin Hardy, the man coming off the ground for the Dogs.
I'll be telling the other guys as well, right?
20 points the margin in favour of these doggies. Lovely tap forward, almost into the path of Boyd. Boyd with the tackle. We'll get another ball up.
Very successfully, the Dogs have had third man up today. They really, just their ruckmans engaged Parry, and then a third jumper's come over the top and hit the ball forward. It didn't quite work there for James Boyd.
And there's Parry's influence. And there's Sutherland's influence. Influential last year was Sutherland in 2 premierships, one for Berry, one of course for Central District.
Big Pumper Sutherland spent time on Glenelg's list. You almost wonder if the Tigers would like him back at the moment. Outside of Trevor Cranston, they're struggling a bit in the ruck department. Powell. Oh, picks the pocket beautifully. Sutherland now. It's with Boyd. Here's the voice of Sainsbury. Wheels around. He's going to have to use his pace. He just got rid of it in time. Stewart thundered over the boundary line. Going to have a throw in. Real pace and shown there by Sainsbury. Since the Eagles have just really got to try and hold firm because the Bulldogs are surging after withstanding that initial burst from the Eagles at the start of the term. Obst gets the handball down. He was looking for Boyd. Gowans wrapping up Powell. He's trying to get a handball away. Does in the nick of time. Gee, the Eagles players running into each other need a bit more voice. It's going to be a free kick to the Bulldogs. It's their 12th of the day and it's through Schiller. Too far out to score. Looks to chip it in. Not the greatest of pass. It's to Havelberg, who just heard the voice in time. Now it's going to go back to Paul Thomas. Handball's on the top. Here's the goal to O'Sullivan. And the crowd's been waiting for that for 19 months. He wouldn't have got a much easier shot than that, Andrew, but the pressure's off him.
Yeah, look, that's just fantastic. Look, it's great for Chad Sullivan, but how unselfish for Paul Thomas. He understands how hard this bloke has worked. And as a captain and a leader of this club, he could have quite easily taken the shot. It's good, kept his feet there, Havelberg, which is fantastic. And could have had that shot, but just realises how important emotionally it is for Chad Sullivan, but also what it brings to the groups. It brings momentum. And you can see everybody got around Chad O'Sullivan there and congratulate him on his goal, but also on the way he's fought his way back into SANFL footy.
2008 best and fairest Chad O'Sullivan out here at Centrals. 2009 in the grand final. Unfortunately flung around and broke his leg badly. Ran into his own man in Scott Dutchke. So close to half-time, 25 and a half minutes gone in the second term. Centrals have assumed control by 26 points. Jared fumbles. Will he get another chance? No. Boyd stood pretty well. Chris Gowans. Dunn is a left footer. Bit low. Havelberg couldn't pick it up. Of course he had support. Spur nicely to Goodrum. His left foot's not what it could be. And as a result, he turns it over to Day. So Day for the Eagles. Down the corridor, options. Parry's one of them. He can go. Decides to hold and wait. That true centre half back for the Eagles, Craig Parry. Well, he didn't like what he saw, and now it's just stagnant again for the Eagles. Parry goes wide looking for Powell. He's worked very hard because he gave it to Parry in the first place, and that ball's out of bounds. In fact, he was behind Parry when Parry got it, I should say, but he still ran 150 metres to try and make something.
He did work very hard, but Craig Parry needs to get back off the mark really quickly there. He just pushed back, just waited. Get back off the mark quickly, and then you're more likely to move it forward.
See Scott Lewis in picture. He's faded out after a busy first term. Right on cue. Does get a disposal, but it's not going to count for too much. Central District withstood the pressure there, Andrew, in that second term, and the margin is now out to 26 points.
Yeah, after initially the Eagles really challenged them in the first part of the quarter, they got some scoreboard pressure on them, but from then on the Dogs really raised it up a level. They lead in all the key indications, inside 50s, 25-11. They stepped it up around the contest. The use of the footy is fantastic. It's just the Central Districts of old, and a number of Eagles players we saw, they just start to fumble under no pressure, under perceived pressure. So they need to obviously go back and just take the footy, stick to the basics, and then come out after half-time with renewed energy and intensity to take on this Central Districts outfit.
Work for Michael Godden at half-time, but the Central Districts rooms will be a pretty happy place at the moment. They are leading by 26 points, 7-9-51 to the Eagles, 4-1-25.
So a 26-point advantage for Central District, and maybe perhaps it could be even more. They certainly have dominated the first half against the Eagles. A look now back at last round, round 6 of the under-18 SANFL competition.
Plenty to play for here. Port Adelaide just 2 points off the lead when the ladder leaders came to visit. The Eagles, with the Bays breathing down their necks, desperate to maintain that top spot. They had everything to lose, and lose they did. This match started well for Port. Coach Matthew Webber extols the benefits of being first to the ball, and the Magpies were first to everything, with goals to Luke Wilson, Gavin Shepherd and Ben Daniels getting them off to a dream start. Gavin Shepherd would go on to record enough votes to earn himself the Round 6 Macca's Cup MVP award. 24 disposals and 7 marks, a significant contribution from the 18-year-old from the Port Districts Football Club. Also praised for his outstanding performance for Port Adelaide was last year's Under-18 Coaches Trophy winner Trent Heffernan. With number 1 stitched to his Guernsey, the 18-year-old, also from the Port Districts Football Club, battled hard for his 11 kicks and 15 handballs as he repeatedly brought his team from defence to attack throughout the afternoon. But it wasn't all plain sailing for Port. A strong second quarter fight back from the unbeaten Eagles brought them right back into this contest. Matthew Jacquia's 5 goals provided hope for the visitors and excitement for the fans who made the short trip across Port Road. But the fight back was stifled in the second half, and the Magpies threw the Under-18 2011 season wide open because over at the Prospect Oval the Tigers were ready to pounce if the Eagles slipped up. And slip up they did, in the end by a substantial margin, which belies the real quality of this match. Port sending the Eagles tumbling from their perch down to 3rd place, winners by 52 points at Alberton. Winless and bottom of the Under-18 ladder, the Panthers entertained last year's grand finalists, West Adelaide. The Panthers' percentage at the start of play was a measly 20.95, and they'd already had over 530 points scored against them. To say expectations down at South were low would truly have been an understatement. 3 goals up at quarter time, the Bloods might well have coasted home. 2 goals to Darcy Munn ensured the Panthers were going to have to work hard to get anything out of this match at all. The 18-year-old SANFL Academy member backed up his goals with 8 kicks, 6 handballs and 4 marks. They're not outstanding figures, but that's largely down to the pressure that the Panthers exerted after quarter time. Whatever coach Jason Tawney told them at the break, or whatever he put in their water, certainly paid off, because the Panthers came out all guns blazing for the remaining 3 quarters of this clash. For the Panthers, Jared Allman was outstanding, chosen to represent South Australia last year for the under-16s. The boy from Ranella earned the praise of Jason Tawney and accolades from the fans. His stats aren't huge, just 14 kicks for the game, but his delivery inside 50 was what made the difference for the home side. And he was delivering to forwards like Billy Hogben. Billy scored 8 goals for the under-16s last season before sliding into the under-18 team, where he added another 6 to his tally. His 2 goals this week were certainly much needed and gratefully accepted on Saturday because this game turned into a thriller. Scores were level at 3-quarter time and the South faithful were given some real hope for the first time this season. And the 4th quarter was a battle royale. William Fry could have sealed the deal for the Bloods in the 15th minute. but a behind just wasn't enough. And when Tom Jolly popped through this goal in the 20th minute, the hope became reality. The Panthers had recorded their first win for season 2011. They're still stuck on the bottom of the ladder, but with a newfound confidence and a foundation to build upon for the rest of the year. There's a long way to go, but in round 6 it was the Panthers by 9 points. With just 13 wins in 2 and a bit years of under-18 football, the Bulldogs youngsters have a long way to go to match the success of their big brothers in the league. And with the under-16s not doing so well in 2011 either, questions about the Dogs' future have to be playing on the minds up north. With just one win for the season, and that was against the Panthers, the Central District under-18s had a good chance to salvage some pride in round 6 when the Double Blues made the trip up to the Ponderosa. And things looked rosy for the Dogs right up until three-quarter time. This was a match they could win, and they knew it. Steve Rusker was best on ground for the Dogs. Steve knows all about close calls. He was best on ground for the South Australian under-16 squad when they beat Western Australia by 1 point in Sydney in 2009. The 17-year-old from the Anguston Football Club gathered 25 kicks, 6 handballs and 7 marks last weekend as he played a pivotal role in defence for Central District. No less than 7 rebounds from the back lines ensured the Double Blues were denied the runaway win they might have hoped for. Well, it might not have been a runaway win, but it was a win for Sturt nonetheless. The Dogs ran out of puff in the final term. They let a 2-goal lead slip away, much to the dismay of coach David Harvey. For Sturt, the big names were once again in command, and they are big names. Adam William Charles Shearwood led the goal scoring with 5 goals on the day. Adam has performed consistently well for the Double Blues since he moved up from the under-16s in mid-2009. With 10 goals for this year already, we can expect to see more of Adam. Another big name for Sturt was recognised as the best on ground. Harley Craig Montgomery gave everything and a bit more on Saturday. His 27 disposals and 10 marks adding to that first goal he scored for Sturt last week. It's all systems go for Harley. A couple of goals to Ben Goggle in the final term would cement the win for Sturt and leave the Dogs wondering how they let this one get away. In the end, Sturt ran out winners by 26 points. We've saved the best to last. This was a good old-fashioned nail-biter. It's what neutral fans love about footy, but it was heart-attack material for the Roosters and Tigers fans. North Adelaide has been looking strong this year. The success of the under-16 squad last year, where they won the grand final, is being translated into good form on the field for the under-18s in 2011. With 3 wins to start the year, the future looked bright, but subsequent losses to the Eagles and Sturt gave the critics some ammunition to shoot down the flightless Roosters. While critics were silenced last Saturday afternoon, the Tigers are the in-form side, the reigning premiers unbeaten in 2011, and North damn near beat them. In fact, if this kick in the dying seconds from Bradley Selby Fulgrave had gone through the middle, North Adelaide would have beaten the premiers. How close can you get? The result aside, the Roosters were excellent and they should hold their heads high. This was a performance they could be proud of. Jonathan Birkin was the best for North. He collected 10 kicks and 14 handballs throughout the match. The Golden Grove speedster scored 11 goals last season and a few with the under-16s the year before. His work in the air is noteworthy too, with 7 marks on Saturday. But nothing was going to stop the Tigers' Jordan Murdoch. Now second on the leading goal scorers tally with 24 goals for the season, Jordan slotted through 8 goals against North on Saturday. And none was more important than this one in the 29th minute of the final term. The Tigers were 4 points behind and everyone held their breath as Jordan Murdoch stepped up to take the free kick. Jordan's 8th goal in the end was enough to claim the win. Glenelg in an absolute thriller by 1 point over North.
And some close ones in the under-18s. We had a few thrashings this season. Certainly Port was too good for the Eagles. But a close one between the Panthers and Westies, just the 9 points in it. Sturt by 26 over Centrals. And Glenelg in the real tight one by just that narrow margin, just the 1 point. Norwood, of course, having the bye. Have a look at that premiership table. The Bays leading the way from Port Adelaide, and pretty much those two clubs have been up there for every season of the under-18 competition. Eagles, North and Sturt rounding out the top 5 as it is after 6 rounds. Let's have a look at the leading goal kickers in the under-18 competition. Michael McMahon leading the way. Up the top for North Adelaide, and Jordan Murdoch with 24 goals just behind for the Tigers. 6 goals then back Luke Reynolds, and he's from Port Adelaide. So that's a look at round 6 of the under-18 competition in South Australia. We'll move now on to all the state leagues across Australia covered by ABC Television, and we're going to start, as usual, with the WAFL.
Legends were on hand as Perth celebrated their 500th match at Lathlane Park against Claremont in round 8. But it was the Tigers who raced out of the blocks. Chad Jones showing no ill effects in his second game back since August. The Demons steadied on the scoreboard.
Oh, very good bounce for Moody. Big turning circle. No elevation, but his clean bowl works.
But Claremont remained in control, leading by 20 points at quarter time. Things didn't get much better for the hosts in the second term, with Chris Billings out of action and Jones continuing to show while he was the WAFL premium goal kicker.
Chad Jones shoots, the umpire barely moves. 4 goals to Chad Jones, and the Tigers have a lead of 32 points.
Sandover medalist Ross Young finally giving the locals something to cheer about, but they still trailed by 44 points at the main break. It was more of the same in the third, and with little midfield pressure, Chad Jones continued to build his confidence, booting his 5th, before Matt Orzell joined the score sheet and the lead was past 10 goals.
Oh, clever little disposal of Orzell, a natural left footer. It's bending, it's there. And Claremont get the opening 3 goals in just 6.5 minutes.
Matthew Moody tried to put some respectability onto the Demons' score with his 4th, but the margin was still 63 points heading into the last. The final term was a percentage booster for Claremont, with Byron Shammer kicking his 2nd goal in his return match, while Jones continued to add to his tally.
This will be 8 straight. Probably one of his easier shots for the afternoon. Sends it on its way. That's bread and butter stuff to Chad Jones.
Claremont upsetting the party to register an 83-point victory. Moody booting 5 for the Demons, while Jones finished with 8 for the winners. To the rest of round 8, and East Perth were no match for the Swans. East Fremantle defeated Peel by 27. West Perth's perfect record continued against the Bulldogs, while Subiaco had the bye. To the ladder after 8 rounds, and West Perth are a game clear on top, followed by the Tigers, South Fremantle and the Swans making up the top 4. East Fremantle are outside on percentage from Perth, Subiaco, East Perth and Peel on the bottom. Bulldog Brian Lake turned out for Williamstown as they took on Sandringham in round 6, and it was on right from the opening bounce.
Oh, solid early, and there's a Sandringham player down.
The Seagulls on fire early as they slammed on 5 goals to none to start the contest. Some magic from Nick Hine, the only bright spot for the Zebras.
Now Hine on the left foot, vacant goal square. Which way will the bouncing ball go? It'll go right through.
Tempers flaring on the siren as Willie led by 27. Peter German was unhappy despite his side's lead.
Didn't come into the form of the ball. You're not a leading forward, mate. Do you understand?
And his mood wouldn't have improved when Dean Polo goaled after 30 seconds. The Zebras kicking them from everywhere.
Archer's kicked the goal! One of the best goals we're likely to see in the VFL this year.
Both teams putting their body on the line before Sandringham tied things up.
It is a brilliant shot at goal. Scores a level here at Werribee.
But the Seagulls rallied to boot 3 late and lead by 18 at the half. Luke Dalhouse kept up the pressure in the third.
Dalhouse with the tackle, holding the ball.
Williamstown keeping their foot down as they kicked away. Brett Goods on fire to boot a pair.
Goods plays on, runs into the open goal and slots it through.
And Lake going forward to good effect. The Zebras not the only one shell-shocked as Willie led by 50 going into the last. Goods continued his charge in the final term as Sandringham played for pride at the other end.
Archer, has he come up with another magic goal? He has, the big man.
Some honour restored in a 7-goal to 3-quarter, but it wasn't enough for the win. Williamstown home by 35. The Seagulls remaining undefeated as Goods finished with 5, while Matthew Boland also kicked 5 for the Zebras. In other games, Geelong were no match for the Roosters. Port thrashed Frankston. Bendigo were far too good for Werribee. The Bullants beat Casey in a tight one. And Box Hill, Coburg and Collingwood had the week off. To the ladder, and Port's huge win over the Dolphins sees them lead Williamstown on percentage. Bendigo and the Bull Ants are next, with 3 teams a game back on 3 wins, and North Ballarat rounding out the 8. Collingwood are just outside, followed by Box Hill, with Coburg, Geelong and Frankston still without a win. Devonport's fall from grand final grace had been well documented, as 2011 saw the exit of a host of stars. But in round 5 they ventured to Hobart with a win under their belt and started promisingly when Aaron McNabb gave them the opener. Errors proved costly.
Well, that's a disappointing kick. Turns it over, straight back over his head. That hurts.
And the Tigers skipped to a 19-point advantage, with Aaron Hall kicking 3 in the first quarter.
Hall wins out, left foot around the corner. Hall, that's a terrific goal.
Hobart's defensive pressure was outstanding, but the Magpies eventually got some reward for effort through 16-year-old Brennan Kendall. The most bizarre moment of the day came when Quade Byard was reported for shaking the post. Hall's 4th, the easiest of the day, as Hobart slammed on 7 goals to 4 to lead by 41 points at the main break.
Reeves, thought he almost had it. Cassidy at ground level, round the corner. That's an unbelievable goal.
The Tigers continued to make the most of the available space, and Hall remained the target in attack. He would kick his 5th and give them the perfect start. Quint Matthews tried to provide an option at the other end, while Justin Rodman booted his 4th goal, but his side still trailed by 45 points heading into the last. Hobart took under 2 minutes to start the final term, with Sam Reeves marking strongly and adding his 2nd. But it was Hall who stole the show, kicking his 7th, as the Tigers recorded a 92-point drumming and their first win of 2011. Hobart with 11 goal kickers, Hall leading the charge with 7, while Rodman finished with 5 for the Magpies. The split round in the TSL saw just 2 other games. Burnie had an easy win over North Launceston, while Glenorchy went down to the Demons. To the ladder, and Launceston remain on top from Glenorchy and the Demons. Burnie are a game further back, with Clarence and the Bombers making up the top 6. Lauderdale are outside from Hobart and Devonport, with the Bulldogs on the bottom.
Now, Andrew, out of all that, can you tell me, did you think the most interesting thing was somebody being reported for shaking a post?
I did actually. That made me perk up and watch a little bit more. But yeah, very interesting that you can get reported for shaking a post.
I wonder in that sort of level whether you can get fined for doing that as a penalty. I don't know. Anyway, we'll go down to Soda's on the boundary. Soda's certainly impressive from Central's missing so many top players to be able to go away from the Eagles like that in the opening half.
Yeah, look, they've been fantastic. A testament to Roy Laird and the ability that he has of just challenging players, as we heard before the game, giving them new roles, and they're able to regenerate over and over again every year. Big names missing. I have one of them alongside me, the great Jimmy Gowans. James, how's the butt cheek?
Very sore. It was a big hard knee right into the top of the right bum, and it's put me out of action for a couple of weeks. I'm actually copping a bit of ribbon off the Eagles supporters. I reckon that Chris might have done it to me during the week.
Now, tell us a little bit about how you've been travelling, because you've had some injury concerns at 34 years of age. Is it coming to an end, sadly?
Yeah, it is. Look, this will be our last year, I'm sure of that. And it's disappointing to miss any game, when you're going well. But considering it's probably going to be our last year, it's pretty hard to watch the boys, but they're doing a great job. And I think the young guys are really stepping up. We've had a lot of senior guys miss out, and they're going really well.
One of those senior guys is back in action. We've got some vision here. Let's take a look at this. Chatty O'Sullivan, 19 months he's been out. Here's a chance. Run us through this, James. He gets a chance. They give him the ball, running into an open goal, and what happens?
Missed. I reckon he got a bit too excited. He's been waiting for that moment for 18 months, and look, when he left the game, he was, here we go. He's one where he should handball to Chris, and Chris got stuck into him.
Here we go, running in. Some nice work here by the skipper. Gives it over the top. There it is, the moment they've been waiting for. He does get his goal. Now, everyone gets around him there, James. Everyone bar one bloke in the forward line. Your brother, because he was dark that he didn't get the handball before when he missed.
Yeah, look, sentiment's a great thing, isn't it? But when you miss out on a goal, even though you're 34, it really probably hurts just as bad. It's probably bad form on Chris's behalf, but it's great to see Chatty back out there. All the boys love him, and the supporters do as well.
It's been a long, long journey for him. I think he's been back in the hospital a couple of times to get some bone chips out. Yeah. So has it lifted everyone?
It has, just to see him turn up to training the whole year last year is probably the reason we ended up getting up. Just his determination, his work ethic, he's done everything hasn't left any stone unturned. It's a credit to the medical staff to get him back because his leg was in a pretty bad way. So,
James, just before I let you go, one more. Chris looks like he rolled his ankle. I think something he did a little while ago. How is he? Have you had a chance to chat to him?
Yeah, look, he's just got a sprained ankle. He did it early in the year, and yeah, he's fine now. He just had a little jab in it, and there's no worries.
He'll be right?
100%.
And you'll be back soon?
Next week, hopefully.
Ooh,
yeah.
We look forward to it. The Terrible Twins back in action. Look out.
Cheers.
Till then, James will go take a seat and rest that backside of his, I imagine. So let's look at what unfolded in the first half at Centrals. Again, you run out of superlatives for how good they've been. It's 11 years now, going on 12. I'm sure a lot of people expect them to make a grand final again this year, and they keep delivering on expectations.
Yeah, they set such high standards, and that's demanded by not only Roy Laird but their leadership group as well. And, you know, although Chris had a go at O'Sullivan for not handballing, that's what the demand's out here, and they certainly compliment. We saw Milne get involved with that one, Ops returning to the club. So they continue to do selective recruiting, and you know, you can see their goals were coming relatively easy, and there you can see the Eagles. It's a real battle. You know, they really have to fight hard for their goals. There's no fluency in their goals, so they really struggle through it. And here's probably the highlight of the first half. Certainly for Chad O'Sullivan, who you can see there gets on the end. And look, this is what I talk about leadership. You know, Paul Thomas could have kicked that goal, but he generates that enthusiasm around Chad O'Sullivan to that time. And look, it's been a total domination. 7-9, 16 Sherwin Scotts to 5, 25 inside 50s to 11. It's really, the Bulldogs are really controlling this game.
Yep, very labour intensive for the Eagles for those single goal kickers. And Alan Obbs with 3, Daniel Havelberg, the key forwards for the Bulldogs, getting in the goals as well, as we just look through those stats to half-time as the players are just about to take up position.
Yeah, it's relatively even in the first quarter, but the Dogs have really put the pedal to the metal, and the inside 50s are a really telling stat against the Eagles.
Let's have a look before we go to the bounce for the second half of the halftime scores around the grounds. Norwood by 4 points over North Adelaide, and the Panthers who play Sturt later tonight in the other match. No, that's it. I've got confused about how many matches there are. Westies by 37 points last night, and Centrals by 26 at the moment at halftime over the Eagles. And there's James Gowans showing a little bit of love for Justin Cicolella, the two veterans getting together and having a chat. Certainly James explaining just what's going on with his backside. Here's Chris Kendall to explain what's going on with the second half.
Certainly need a lift now, the Eagles, because they have let Centrals take the ascendancy very much in that first half. Umpire Rouston electing to throw the ball up this time. Williams gets the clearance. Jared's in position A and takes the mark. Jared wheels back onto that left foot. A little bit too hot for Parry, but he's got time to recover. Tips it further up the line to Treby. Going on towards the Croaky direction. Croaky gets the handball off to Petrenko, who tries to bust one tackle. Too much, holding the ball. Out at the Prospect Oval, Taylor Walker has 3 goals to half-time. James Allen, 21 disposals to half-time, if you don't mind. He'd have to be the favourite from the Gary Medal at the moment. Damien Hines. Over the top, where he's got Hayes moving for him. Further down the line, Boyd will be the next in the chain. James Boyd, not quite at his usual numbers. We'll get some of those stats from Ian Monbridge in a second.
I'll just pick on Boyd. That's his second kick. He's had 6 handballs.
Yeah, he did seem very quiet today, Moggy, that's for sure. Now it comes back into Hayes. They still haven't really extracted it from the Eagles' half of the ground. They've got plenty of time, though. Being called to play on. He's thinking about going backwards. The purists will say go forward, and he does. Gee, uncontested mark almost taken by Williams. You heard the voice from Sutherland, who is looking for Obst. Schiller in there trying to farm out the handball. He's sitting over it a little bit. Yeah, umpire Rouston agrees. Had time to get rid of it, and it's going to be a free kick to Schiller. Against Schiller, I should say.
And Gafrida is the man. And Gafrida, the breeze, it seems, getting up. Blowing into the face of Gafrida. He kicks down the line. Another free kick will favour Grokey this time. Umpire Colin Rouston, the veteran, coming in and adjudicating. So Grokey can drop it in short and does so to Stewart. Wants to take off, does so quickly. Sent it up the ball. Sutherland was sitting there, should take it and does. And he's got runners outside him. Away goes Sainsbury. Sainsbury can go short to Chris Gowans. Oh, and he just showed too much of it. It's knocked away. Of course, it comes to Barmby. Awkwardly but effectively for Spur. At half back, flanking him Nash. Nash down the line. They've got the man over the top set up in Thomas. They go over the top to Thomas. 60 from goal. And Thomas has a couple of selections to make. Oh, in the end, he almost ran too far and he got the kick away just in time. That was a good chase, and that came from Grieger, and he forced the minor score.
Yeah, it was a fantastic chase by Ben Grieger. He certainly gave him 20 metres in. Just that lunge there late, just Paul Thomas. You see that Paul Thomas first intent. He was looking to the centre corridor, exactly what Roy Laird asked at quarter time.
Jared received it from the kick in and isolates Rayner, who's been fairly quiet today. Looking out there, we're reading it off the pack. There is Batley. Batley runs, Batley takes a bounce. Can he finish this off? He reads the breeze perfectly and slots it home for the Eagles. They needed that one to bring the margin back to 21 points. 5-1-31 the Eagles, 7-10-52 for Central.
Yeah, it's pretty basic footy. You can see there Rayner goes long. Grokey fights hard for front position, brings it forward, and Batley's fantastic front and centre crumbing. And look, he's a former state runner in the 400 metres, so once he gets goal side of it, there's no catching him. And great to see some of the young kids coming through for the Eagles and in the SANFL trying to stamp their mark.
So that lead, 21 points for Centrals. Remember, the Eagles going into this match with an identical record to Central's, only percentage separating them. Central's second and the Eagles third on the ladder, both with 4 wins and 1 loss, and Central's with the centre break again and left by himself out there, Williams. He gets it, steadies, and boy, they've got a lot of players inside 50 by themselves. Spur was the man who took it. Now he looks to the goal face and he kicks, and it wasn't the greatest of kicks, was it? 25 out, taken by Jarrett. Started as a wingman, came across with a reputation from Williamstown. Never made it to an AFL list, did a couple of pre-seasons with Collingwood. Now here's Lewis, of course at his third SANFL club, and certainly found his feet here. Powell dropped what he probably should have taken, having done all the hard work. Surely that's holding the ball. Umpire thinks so. Well done by Powell. Symes trying to break free. Back in the corridor, Parry. He drops it over the top for Goldsworthy. Oh, gee, that's a good mark. Back into the unknown. And Matt Goldsworthy took a mark.
Just get a feeling there's a greater intensity here for the Eagles and a more intent to play on quickly. And looks good, well-weighted kick by Parry too. Just put it over into space. And Goldsworthy just made his own pace into the footy.
Distance a worry here into the breeze. Goldsworthy from 49 metres gets a good piece of it, hooks it, going for the distance.
Gee, that would have been a handy one for the Eagles. Margin back to 20 points. As Neil mentioned, this breeze is starting to really blow up.
You've got to run your message. You can't do team.
Bulldogs are kicking with it. Sainsbury, the designated kicker, out towards Symes. I might ask Ian Moggridge in a minute what Brad Symes' stats are, because he started very well. Takes a bounce. Elects to keep it on the outer side of the ground. Petrenko just got in the way of Williams, but Williams showed a real turn of foot to recover. Kicks further down the lines. Got Havelberg, slips it over the top there towards Dunn. Dunn unloads. Dunn fires on goal. Dunn slots it through the centre. That's the response that the Bulldogs needed. The margin now out to 26 points.
And good work in the back pocket by Brad Symes. He was able to step around Treby. And just a kick over the top, and able to go with space. And there's Havelberg just waiting for Dunn to create himself on his non-preferred right. Didn't look quite confident there on his right foot, but certainly the end result is what the doggies were after.
Done good. It's quite Jack Gibson, old-time rugby league coach. So ball back in the middle. Central's 8-10. The Eagles 5-2. Slipped out from McKenzie to Lewis. Good shepherd coming in from Parry. Lewis down to half forward high. There was a little bit of a nudge come push out there, and against Grokey go to Hardy. Hardy then for Sainsbury can run the corridor again, elects not to. Goes by hand over the top. Symes now loose. They chase him, but not before he gets the kick away. wasn't the greatest. Paul Stewart picks it off at the back for the Eagles, quickly releasing it. Day needed to be good, was Lewis, looks corridor. Day ran on and so did... It was, might have been McKenzie there, and then it's come to Thomas. And Thomas long to the goal face. Obbs couldn't get it, and Grieger takes it through for the minor score. And it was Havelberg who intercepted that kick back into the corridor. It's always dangerous, Andrew. It's probably the hardest kick in football.
It is, and that's what the Eagles haven't done well, and what the Dogs have done well today. Use that centre corridor.
Day wrapped up in a tackle straight away. We're going to have a throw up. Ian Mogridge.
The three big ball grabbers on the ground have all had 16. Paul Thomas, Brad Symes and Scott Lewis.
Thanks, Moggy. Neil Cross mentioned Jack Gibson for a minute. I thought we were going to go into a sketch from the 12th man, but then realised Pearce wasn't out there. It's Lewis trying to bustle his way through the pack. It's going to be another ball up. Under immense pressure at the moment, the Eagles. Bulldogs starting to put the foot down. Just getting the clearance away for the Eagles. Now it's Hardy, cut off well by Grokey, playing a long way up the ground. Rayner, a little bit too hot there for his teammate, ends up with Hayes, who chips over the top. Barnsby got to sit under it for a long, long time. Sansbury came through, just to the intercept. Goes to Barmby, who's twisting and turning, just got a disposal away. Sansbury heard the voice of Symes. Also gets the ball away by hand. Central's player wrapped up in a tackle. Going to have a ball up right in the middle of the Elizabeth Oval. It's the Bulldogs by 27 points.
You're right. Point starts here.
So back in the middle, and Central still holding sway. Symes comes over the top, trying to knock it into space, and a little bit of a problem for the knee of Boyd there as he goes in and tackles, but I think he does have a knee problem. We'll keep an eye on that. They crash in, and eventually we'll get another ball up, will we? Yes, we will, and back behind play. James Boyd struggling with the left knee out of this. See Roundtree just looking for options. Still they keep it in tight. These two sides, as we mentioned before the game, 5 grand finals in the past decade. Only one win for the Eagles, but certainly they always fancy themselves under Ron Fuller for their ability to go at a hard and tough like Centrals. Batley through the pack and then off to Goldsworthy. Goldsworthy long to the goal face. He looks for Tiller. It's smashed away from him. Sansbury across there. So was Goldsworthy. Just kicked it out of bounds. 70 around from the Eagles. Goal face, Andrew.
Yeah, certainly Ron Fuller had a very similar game plan. It was tough one-on-one footy, and at that stage, that was the way the game was heading. And certainly Michael Godden is starting to evolve that into a different game plan that the players are now starting to get used to.
Brokey goes up solo, hands it down to Powell, who's ridden into the turf by Goodrum. Going to have a ball up. Coming up at three-quarter time. Highlights from last round, Glenelg versus North Adelaide. Glenelg swamping the Roosters after three-quarter time. Getting a much-needed win. Hard to say where the Tigers are at the moment. Boyd gets the clearance away. 2-on-1 contest, and the numbers are with the Eagles. Stewart tries to keep it in. We're going to have a throw-in.
See, little things matter in footy then. It was a 2-on-1 against Lee Spur. He's actually fought hard, and then he's just tapped it over the boundary line and allowed the Central District's players to come back, and now it's a 50-50. So just fantastic individual efforts that formalise his team.
Lewis got it forward, and that's where we got this. Somehow it slipped out. He's Batley for his second of the afternoon. Somehow Allman managed to get it to him, and Batley has his second. Nice finish, as you said, Andrew. He's a sprinter, and once he got clear, it was just a question of accuracy.
Yeah, certainly in the new market, isn't he? If he was a horse, but look, good play by Jared Allman, some desperation. And just quick hands in tight by Treby, and then two quick bounces. Probably doesn't need to bounce the ball so often, but he has finished well in this quarter, and what the game was screaming out.
2 kicks, 2 goals for Nathan Batley. The Eagles have been inside 57 times this quarter, which is more than either of the first 2 quarters.
Starting to apply some more forward pressure, the Eagles. They really need to make it count on the scoreboard, though. That's certainly good ball efficiency. I reckon most players would be happy with that, although we saw Michael Pettigrew do that in round 1.
I've just watched what's
a free
happened
kick in the 50-metre arc.
Sorry to interrupt, but it was going on between Grokey and Justin Hardy, and then Lee Treby's come in. Justin Hardy's given him a push to the chest. Lee Treby's fallen over. Umpire spotted it. Free kick inside 50. Undisciplined act by an interesting player.
So, golden opportunity now for the Eagles.
That's fine. Yep. Got it.
To Treby. See if he can slot this one home. Oh, Lett'll be filthy with that.
I'm not going to you.
Treby looking to bring the margin back to 15 points with basically a free hit at the top of the goal line. Kicks on its way. The Centrals fans say there's justice in football, drifts to the wrong side of the post. Margin 20 points.
So Sainsbury to bring the ball back in. Just drops it in short. Had to be accurate with that. 3 Eagles players in the vicinity. Goodrum. And then he released it for Hayes. Hayes wanted the hand pass for Gowans. Off the ball, Tiller and Hayes have a little exchange. Spur looked like he got one in the back. Crowd not happy. Now they crowd in, wait on the umpire. And it'll be a ball up left half forward for Centrals. And was there anything much in that? Lee Staple coming from behind.
Yeah, I think it's chopping of the arms, if anything, I suppose. He didn't really have his eye on the ball and he was trying to make a contest. So to the letter of the law, should have been a free kick.
Oh, Gowans to Jenner and then Obbs to Packmark, and then off he goes to Gowans again. And Gowans slips it out to Dunn. And well done by Goldsworthy. Gowans again, you'll love that. 3 disposals in a matter of a moment. And now Symes, who is slipping, got one high. And he'll take a free kick just on 50. Symes goes for Boyd. Not the tallest of targets he could have picked out. And he didn't quite pick him out either. So we'll get a ball out, up 25 metres out from goal.
There's Matthew Goldsworthy. Look, that's fantastic technique there. And look, he's up again and at it. And just he's trying to lay that tackle and Symes just slips underneath it and gets it too high. But that's the type of intensity that the young players from the Eagles need to bring to the table.
Petrenko wins it from the stoppage. Treby just handling it in front of himself. Could have been held. Barmby gets it to Boyd. Boyd sends it towards the top of the square. A little bit too hot for O'Sullivan. Gowans is in position A. Has a snap at the goals. Now, Mark, looks like it's going to be paid to the Eagles. It must have been 10 centimetres inside the line. But it was pretty close to being over. Umpires in a closer position. 3-on-1. Numbers are with the Eagles, but winning it at the stoppage is O'Sullivan. Now it comes back towards Milne. Hasn't had many disposals today. Leaving at the back of the pack is Remington to Treby. Nothing really much in front of him. He's got to try and dribble it along the ground and try and disguise that as a clever way of trying to keep it out of bounds. Nothing doing. Now it's with Spur. Over the top by hand towards Milne, who delivers a long raking handball. Gee, that put his teammate under pressure in Boyd. Barmby. Petrenko lurking. Powell sits on top of him. Surely there's going to have to be a ball up from there, and there is. Let's have a look back at that one there in the square. Chris Gowans has the flying snap. Oh, gee. You be the judge at home on that one. Wouldn't like to make a call on that.
Especially when it's Chris Gowans having a shot as well.
Tell you what, behind play, Matthew Goldsworthy running across crashed into one of the umpires, and he is struggling. I'm trying to pick which umpire it is, but he's back inside defensive 50. That's where he is at the moment. And he got one in the ribs. It was just a bit short of breath, and one of the other umpires decided, well, I'll better hop in and take charge of the play. So the Eagles go forward. Roundtree wants to play on, does it pretty well. Grokey inside 50. Oh, he just tumble punt, and it worked. Tiller shared the ball, running off halfback. Goal for Jarrett. Well, there's a lot more good luck than good management in some of that.
Yeah, they're coming a bit, the Eagles, aren't they? They've got some momentum. They're starting to win some stoppage work. The movement of the footy is certainly a lot cleaner. There's Adam Grokey. I'm not sure that was meant for Stephen Tiller. But the move forward, there's a move forward. And that Luke Jarrett finished that goal off. And the margin's back to a respectable 14 points. Next goal becomes very important in the context of this game.
3-2 to 1-2 this quarter the Eagles' way. Umpire throwing it up. That's umpire Rouston, so we can rule him out of the possible list of casualties. It's going to be a free, though, to the Eagles at the stoppage. So Craig Parry to take the free kick, and you would think the resulting centre break.
Come back, Craig, come back.
Let's have a look at that one. Yeah, shepherding, holding, blocking, take your pick of any one of the three. Parry gets the clearance away. He's looking for a mark in there from Jared, who's gone up forward. With his raking left foot, there's no one in the goal square either. Needed to be a little bit quicker. The Bulldogs are getting numbers back there, and one of those is Cameron Milne. But this will take Jared's best effort if he's going to have a ping. Moving on to that left foot. Gets very close to the man on the mark. You could see that one coming a long way off. Lewis, back to Jared. Gets the all the way by hand, but cut off by Williams. A real disposal in there, you wouldn't call it. Sainsbury. Williams looking for O'Sullivan. Gee, O'Sullivan battled very well to create the contest. It's up against three Eagles. Jared's been taken high. Look there from Luke Jared. Kids, if you're watching that one at home, make sure you go back 5 more metres. I reckon the Bulldogs player will be feeling that one later tonight too.
Give us some rain.
Young Schiller. Hey, we touched on before, yeah, he likes Rebecca Black. I guess someone's got her, law of averages. Getting it now is O'Sullivan. Over the top, we heard the voice from Gowans. Beats him over the boundary line, and we're going to have a throw-in.
Chris Gowans with Jared Petrinko, that man hot on his tail, very much aware of his positioning on the ground, happy to go over the line. Sutherland knocked it to the front. Boyd was holding Mackenzie, and he eventually forced the ball over the line in conjunction with Goodrum. Cross at Prospect, yes, there is only one other match this afternoon. Norwood leading North by 9 points. South Adelaide and Sturt to play later tonight down at Noarlunga. Thomas over the top, thumping it forward, gaining another 20 metres for his side. And Stewart just content to knock it over the boundary line on true centre wing. Interesting stage of this game. Centrals by 22 points at quarter time and by 26 at half time. They seemingly had plenty of control, but the Eagles have made a bit of a rush of it in this third term. Centrals having won the past 7 games when they've met the Eagles out here at Elizabeth. Now, Thomas and Jared going for the ruck contest in a way then. I think it was Thomas being blocked by Jared to ensure he wasn't third man up. Stewart again takes the ball back to the boundary line, and Centrals throughout this have not had a clean possession, but they managed to take it from half back to half forward. Let's have another look.
That's good defensive play by Paul Stewart. Probably in his career he would have tried to create something out of that. What he's done there is turned boundary side, played safety as a good defender should do.
One of the more blatant frees, we see a stoppage there. Jenner taken square in the back. Good work. Falling at the back of the pack is Batley. 2 kicks for 2 goals. He's determined to keep that average up by handballing. Over the top to Treby. Mackenzie flanking him. Now Mackenzie's generally very good in this situation. Gee, the Eagles player in Brokey really threw his teammate off the ball. Yep, that's going to be a free. He was hanging on. It's almost a professional free, really. And he's calling for a 50, umpire Rouston. That's an interesting one. So this brings Centrals right back to within attacking range after the rebound was all with the Eagles there. So this will bring Justin Hardy right to within goal scoring range if he wants to.
Play on!
Kicks long. He's got a lead coming out there. Loss from Spurt. Over the top to Nash. Chips out looking for Thomas. The freeder at the back of the pack for the Eagles. Just heard the voice of Stewart. Bott needs to lay the shepherd if he's not going to get the disposal. He does. Now it's Jared. Caught on that left foot again. Chipping over the top. Eagles keeping it on the outer side. This needs to sit for Goldsworthy. He keeps his feet. All others around lost theirs. Goldsworthy looking for Grokey. It's to his feet. He's going to have to try and turn Hardy inside out. Busts around one. Couldn't quite get around to the second. He was looking for Rayner. Just overshoots that player. Hayes. Roundtree. Hayes gets it away, handballs it straight to Sainsbury's face, so he plucks it off just in time. Kicks out there with Schiller. Schiller kicks it under the outer side. Oh, big mark, almost taken at the back of the pack. Now it's with O'Sullivan. Over the top to Havelberg, playing a long way up the ground. Going into the attack. Couldn't quite take it out there. Was the Eagles player in Staple. Gowans just farms out the handball to O'Sullivan. O'Sullivan just dispossessed. Now it comes back to Spur, who's looking to spin around. Going towards the forward 50. Can Ops take it? Almost fell into his hands. Petrenko's lurking at the back of the pack. Grieger, good defensive pressure. Surely going to have to be a ball up from that, and there is. Gee, about 15 metres out from the central goal. They are leading by 14 points. Just
Paul Stewart trying to put his shoulder back in. I think he's done it again. We mentioned he did it in the grand final a few years ago. It doesn't look good for the Port Adelaide AFL player.
You got it out.
It doesn't look good for the Eagles. They're under pressure at the back. Gefrida released it to Bock, picked it up excellently, but then the hand pass was errant. Havelberg looks back to the corridor. Lewis favoured by the kick, couldn't take it. To ground. Oh, there was a foot in there somewhere. I think it might have been Oxt. He's got a goal. 4 for the afternoon for Alan Oxt.
It's just great forward pressure by Centrals. You can see Paul Stewart come off the ground, seeing favouring that right shoulder. He's really struggling with that, and he has a history of this, over the years. And let's get a look at this on replay. There he is, dives in. I think there's too much in that. You're thinking more it'd be a stinger type of an injury. You can see there, looks good courage to dive in, and good protection of the footy by Gowans. But I'd expect to see him back shortly.
Yeah, straight into the rooms, but you're right, Andrew. Just looked more of a stinger than anything else. The shoulder didn't seem to have dropped when I saw him going in there, so hopefully that's a good sign for him. Bock, Sutherland, the latter gets the tap down. Gee, Bock showing agility beyond his height. Sainsbury was worried off the ball by the Eagles. O'Sullivan sat upon. Getting it out now is Rayner. Just fired the kick out to no man's land, really. Hines cut it off for the Bulldogs. Symes, he's got plenty of time, plenty of space and plenty of teammates. Now it's with Hayes, who takes a second bounce through the Elizabeth Oval. Just needed to put the afterburners on. He heard the voice of Schiller. Kicks it out looking for Spur, who takes it. Still 2 kicks out from goal. O'Sullivan is pointing him in the direction of attack. Needs to pump the ball long. He's been called to play on Spur a couple of times now. Just does a little chip kick.
Hold there, Daisy.
Out there he's got Havelberg's. Probably too far out even for his raking foot. Havelberg, he's going to unload a long kick. It's going to fall about 15 metres short. Sutherland's in there. Falls to hands. Good tackle in there from Gefrida. Sutherland, he was sat up on there, surely, yep. Umpire agrees. Clumsy work there from the Eagles, and Big Pumper Sutherland will line up from straight in front. Let's have another look there. Yeah, clumsy stuff there from Rayner. And this will give Pumper Sutherland an ideal opportunity to bring the margin out to 26 points.
Will force him to kick as well. He's had 7 handballs so far today.
And red time now. The Eagles have worked really hard to get himself back into this contest. A couple of late goals, or at least one with another opportunity, really hurts them as they get the momentum going in the 3/4 time.
I was just about to say you'd back Pumper from there, and thank goodness I held fire. He has sprayed that from 20 metres out or less. 21 points to margin now, Central's way.
I think his teammates know him well, supporting him by being handball options. So beyond 26 minutes in the third term. And again, control of the match in favour of Centrals, but the Eagles, as they say, are close enough. Spur with a nice mark, laid it off for Symes. Symes off the left foot for Thomas. Just took his time, waited. Ops gave him a lead straight up the corridor. Chooses not to go to that. And, gee, the kick wasn't really good, was it? Symes ducked out of it and then put it dangerously straight up in front of the goals. Oh, Williams in the middle of the pack. He's been paid, and Gefrida says, hang on, I did have a touch on that.
Yeah, it was. I saw it.
So Williams will go back. Tell you what, this might test his range. This tested the umpires. What do you reckon, Andrew? I think he probably did have a good grab on it.
I think that's a pretty fair thing. But look, disappointing for the Eagles there. You couldn't get a third jumper over the top to help Paddy Graffiti. It ball's up in the air for a long, long time. Need to have as many, if your bloke goes in the air, you've got to go with him.
So the siren for three-quarter time. The margin 21 points. And Williams with a tumble punt only succeeds in making it to the goal square. So no scoring at three-quarter time. It's a lead for Central District, which is gettable if you're an Eagles fan. Central's 9-12-66. The Eagles 7-3-45.
Certainly a lot more even quarter that quarter. Central District certainly dominated the first half. The Eagles fought back in that quarter and had a really good period during the middle of the quarter where they put some scoreboard pressure on them. But those last 5 or 10 minutes there, they just ran out of legs a little bit. You can see there they're up and about. Nathan Batley had an influence on their game, but that last goal was really deflating for them. They worked hard to get themselves back into the contest. And now they find themselves with a margin at three-quarter time, which is gettable, but they're going to have to play very well in this last quarter.
So three-quarter time at the Elizabeth Oval. It's Central District by 21 points. Must say, in the closing moments of that quarter, I was about to mention this game next week will be one to watch too, and it's a tough road for the Eagles. They come out here to play Central District, and then next week they face up to West Adelaide.
Yeah, it should be an absolute beauty next week, a cracker. The Eagles certainly are very competitive, and even today we've seen how competitive they are. West Adelaide is certainly flying. The loser of today's game just drops back to the pack a little bit. Central's win, they go up with West Adelaide, they get a nice little buffer.
Yes, and as we know, Westies, look, they've had some bad runs against sides in the last 3 or 4 years under Andy Collins because they haven't, let's face it, performed that well. The Eagles are another side that they can tick off next week as they play them. They haven't certainly performed very well against the Eagles in recent times. Let's have a look at what went on with Glenelg and North Adelaide last weekend in round 6 of SANFL football. And look, North Adelaide had long periods of dominance in this game, and they did lead at three-quarter time by 13 points. And Glenelg, as they have done a couple of times this season, most notably against Sturt when they were trailing by 41 points at three-quarter time, they produced a good last quarter, and that got them out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, both sides have really been up and down. They'd certainly be competitive, but they really haven't put together 4 quarters of consistent footy. And North have been competitive in most games, but really have just had some losses where they've played poorly for periods of that game. And for the Bays, they've either just hung in there for most of the day and then either exploded in the last quarter, and it's just periods of play when they gain momentum, and it's probably not going to, they've relied on a significant effort against Sturt early in the year, and again in this game they really came from nowhere where they looked down and out. North Adelaide had controlled most of the game and been more efficient and probably worked a little bit harder and really had put some scoreboard pressure back on Glenelg, and Glenelg were just able to tough out another win. And these wins could well be significant later in the year when it gets really tight and wins become as a premium. They were able to tough out an ugly win here against North Adelaide.
Jared Lyons with that kick to record a good win for the Tigers in the end. Of course, they faltered last night against Westies, but 16-13-109 to 16-6-102. You do have to feel a little bit of sympathy for Josh Franco and the Roosters.
Yeah, as I said, they've been competitive in a lot of games. They just can't put together 4 consistent performances at the level that he expects.
Well, from time to time, we're a little critical of the umpiring decisions, but of course we need them in our game. I'll tell you what, Shane Harris, the director of SANFL umpiring, worked so hard to get his umpires up and get more numbers out there, and look, he's to be admired for that. I think he does a great job because at SANFL level we're very well umpired. He's got a great initiative this weekend. If you are involved in junior football about Adelaide tomorrow, you might see some of the SANFL coaches and players involved in umpiring. It's a great initiative. I spoke to Shane Harris just about what he had in mind in sparking that initiative.
It's really about umpiring is everyone's business, and we want to make an awareness, especially for junior footy, that we all play an important role, whether we're the coach, spectator, administrator, and this is an initiative that I think will highlight that umpiring is everyone's business.
Has it been embraced? I mean, it seems like there's a lot of the coaches that have immediately, but have they been involved, but have they been dragged kicking and screaming?
No, Neil, they've been very supportive, and which has been really positive. I've been out to a couple of clubs and dropped off their whistle and their green shirt that they'll be umpiring in, and nothing but full praise for the initiative and very supportive. And I think a few of them are looking forward to actually jumping on the other side of the fence.
Roy Laird and Michael Godden among the two coaches, or some of the coaches, who will be umpiring tomorrow at junior matches around Adelaide. And I imagine Michael Godden's got bigger things on his mind right now, Mark Soderstrom.
Yeah, absolutely. They're still trying to find a way back into this game. A couple of things he's going to try and do in this final term. Isolate Grokey and Tiller in the forward line, try and move everyone up at half forward. Also, Jared Petrenko just lurking around Chris Gowans. I want to try and use Petrenko to perhaps stretch Chris. No, he's got some issues with his ankle at the moment, of course. 34 years, maybe he's getting a little bit older, but we just saw Chris Gowans' value in that third term. He was absolutely outstanding. So you're going to hope that Petrenko can perhaps stretch him a little bit. A couple of other things there. Paul Stewart, they're still waiting on the assessment from the medical staff. They still hold some hope that he will come back out onto the deck here in this final term. A big challenge for the Eagles, given they've only won one final term for this year, so it's going to be a tough challenge.
Thanks for that, so as we look through those quarter-by-quarter stats, yes, we know they don't start well, Woodville West Torrens. This season they've only won one first quarter and one last quarter, so they don't start well, they don't finish well, so it doesn't all go well. As we see there, 9-12-66 to 7-3-45 at three-quarter time. Three-quarter time stats look like this.
Yeah, very favourable in favour of the Dogs. You can see their kicks to handballs. They certainly have had a lot more of the footy. Interestingly, the marks have fallen away. The hit-ups have changed as the teams have got side. They still dominate the inside 50s. Marks inside 50s, free kicks pretty even, centre breaks very even. So the Eagles are doing well in the contested footy. They just haven't quite had the same efficiency as they've gone forward as the Dogs.
Yes, they have been very impressive again, the Dogs, this afternoon. That man there, Roy Laird, has his players well drilled. They know exactly what they have to do. They're indoctrinated in this club into a system, and that's why, even with so many first-choice players injured at the moment, including James Gowans, who we spoke to earlier, well, that's why they're able to manufacture something. Down to Sodas with Roy Laird.
Well, Laird, you've just been able to keep them at arm's length, even when they're challenging that term.
Yeah, look, Eagles fought back really well, as you'd expect. Just got a bit of control late, so probably not converting well. We need to now.
What things are you going to change up for this final term?
Oh, no, look, we just think we need some better ball use, and our pressure intensity's got to stay the same. Look, we've had good scoring shots, controlled a lot of that, so just got to convert better.
Go on, you lady. Thanks for joining us.
And now to Chris Kendall with the final quarter.
Mark McKenzie going onto the ball. He's only had 7 disposals for the match so far. That's extraordinarily low numbers for him. Jared Orman, 8 touches for the game, none since quarter time. So these boys really need to work their way back into it if the Eagles are to get in there. Just getting the kick away was Chris Gowans. Eagles getting the centre clearance. Punching the ball away into the Schiller direction now. Will it beat him over the boundary line? Yes, it does. Ball's to be thrown in. Right on cue there, McKenzie got the centre clearance. Funny how that sort of stuff happens now and again.
It's interesting, Roy Laird talking to Jared Schiller. They serve an apprenticeship out here. Before he becomes a key on bowler, he needs to do a run with roll, and he needs to learn about footy and how it's like at this SANFL level. And Roy Laird continues to educate the young players out here at Elizabeth.
Jenner, it was a little bit too cute from Thomas. He tried to spike it over the top volleyball style to Trent Goodrum. Wrapped up in the tackle there is Lewis. And we're going to have a ball up right in front of the grandstand here at the Elizabeth Oval. Certainly been a very good display, I must say, from the men in white today. Really very few queries on that one. Lewis wrapped up again in a tackle. You just sense that the Eagles really need a spark from somebody. I wonder if it's maybe time to put someone like Jared Petrenko on the ball, just to try and get something mixed up in there. Just get a little bit of pace, a little bit of spark from somewhere.
No, that's fair.
Harry gets the tap down. Jared was being held off the ball. McKenzie, touch of the fumbles, got the handball away. It's in the direction of Batley, who kicks long in towards the centre half forward zone. Mark taken by Grokey. He's probably just within kicking range. Empty square. Kicks on its way. Minor score now for the Eagles. They trail by 20 points.
You can't be helped but impressed by Nathan Batley today. Just his cleanness as he came through there and took that footy. Some of his older, more experienced players have really struggled to be clean under the Central District's pressure.
So it was clever. They did manage to isolate Groke. He took a strong mark, and the lead came from Tiller from the square, which left it open. Groke just not accurate. And Groke was deemed not to be in the contest then. A little bit late on Symes as a result. 25-metre free kick in addition to the mark. Symes called a play on down to half forward. Held up by Stewart, who's obviously recovered somewhat. Maybe it was a stinger, Andrew. Short kick from Grieger was pretty good. And this is the aforementioned Batley. Off he goes, and they've finally got a little bit of run through Roundtree. Roundtree drives it long. The long and the tall and the short. It was Sutherland opposed to Goldsworthy, who socked it off the ground for the minor score in the end.
I think he did everything right there, Matthew Goldsworthy. He certainly worked his stronger opponent than Sutherland underneath the footy and just didn't quite take the mark and finish off. But it's a good attempt, but the Eagles need goals.
That sort of stuff wouldn't be out of place in the FA Cup final tonight. Manchester City playing Stoke. That should be a cracker.
Hold there!
Well, you're stoked about it, yes.
Absolutely, and I'll make sure if I'm sitting up in bed, my Manchester's nice and clean.
Let's kick it now, Andrew! Yes.
Now there's a couple of Manchester City fans on the crew there. Jason Sutherland, good falling mark. Paul Chadwick, Chris Keane will be very keen for that result. Pumper in the back pocket. Chipping over the top to Sansbury. They're just playing patient football, and they do this so well, the Bulldogs. They maintain their structures at all times, don't deviate from the rules. That's what makes them such a formidable unit. Roy Laird drilling them well. Hayes took the mark, chips it over the top. He's looking out there for Thomas. Thomas goes to Williams. Oh, dummied around and bolt beautifully. He's looking to go long into attack. Number of players flying for the ball. Back of the pack here, the Eagles have got the numbers. Day goes to ground. Looking for holding the ball. Nothing doing. We're going to have a ball up about 30 metres out. Ian Mogridge.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. For the Dogs, Brad Symes has had 22 possessions to three-quarter time. Paul Thomas, 19. Scott Lewis, 19 for the Eagles, and Luke Jarrett, 16.
Staple just clears the area, pulled in by Stewart, and Stewart has done his shoulder now. Williams climbed over the top of him from 55. He kicks it towards goal, and Dunn takes a strong mark. So he's on the wrong side for his natural left foot, but from this distance you don't know if he'll have too many problems. And back behind play, Paul Stewart definitely suffering from that collision, and Dunn has decided to go back, and Nash takes the mark, and I think they might hold up play, or will they? No, they haven't called for a stretcher, but a very, very sore Paul Stewart is making his way to the bench. And as you can see there, he has that out of joint. That has clearly gone out. And you really do feel sorry for him, because I think you can just about guarantee he's bound for a shoulder op. As Nash comes in, and he's made the distance but just sprayed it to the right for the minor score. And so it's back to a 20-point game in favour of Centrals.
And here's Paul Stewart. Good pressure by Williams. Stewart just need to maintain. He just went to ground a little bit too easy, and he suffers that injury because of that. But let's hope he's all right.
Staple gets it to Parry, to Ormond. And funny that, I just said he hadn't had a possession since quarter time, and there you go. Moggy, is there anybody else that needs a bit of a spur on that I can mention you can let me know about? Chips over the top. Roundtree. And that's going to be a 25. Interesting decision there, Paul Stewart going straight into the rooms with that shoulder. I played footy for years, and the reason I stopped was because of the shoulders. I know exactly the pain that ball adds in at the moment. That will not be a fun night at all coming up. Goes out towards the wing where Remington takes it. He's looking to wheel around. Chipping over the top where the lead comes from Treeby. Still too far out to score. 25 again. That's interesting. See a few 25s played in this last 30 or 40 minutes. That brings Treeby to within goal scoring range, and can get the margin back to 14 points. He has kicked the one goal today on about a 45-degree angle. Right with Lee Treeby, coming up for his 8th disposal for the day.
We're told behind that.
Treeby takes a very long, deliberate run up. Brett Lee would be proud of that. Kicks on its way. Brett Lee would be pretty accurate with the accuracy too. That is a major, and the margin is now back to 14 points, and the Eagles, Henry Rogers, are starting to make their move.
Yeah, they're just persisting here, haven't they? It's not really sparking. They were very patient here as they just brought the ball forward. They just chipped it over the top into space. It's made the mark, and Williams has deemed there to have gone inside the dedicated range. Brings him within kicking distance. Elite Treby finding his way back into footy. Probably a bit forgotten, you know, best and fairest winner at the Eagles. Has missed large portions of the last 2 years. He's a very, very good player.
So the big challenge now is in front of Central District.
Eagles need consecutive goals now just to bring this margin back.
Just comes off Schiller towards Thomas. They'll get the centre break through. In the end, Sainsbury bounces his way down centre wing. Plenty of room for him to move. Kick inside 50. Well, it was almost taken, wasn't it, by Dunn. Then back he went. Nash. Inside 50 was poor. Fans aren't happy, not used to that sort of lack of skill. So Staple with possession. Just drops it in short. Good move from Allman. Still running on. Still with some hope for the Eagles. Not been a high-scoring game. Must say before the game, Andrew, you're mentioning about 14, 15 goals a side. Hasn't quite reached that just yet. Ball out of bounds.
I think just both teams will get tired and both teams will make errors late in this game, and it still could well break open and for one of the teams here.
Just in the background there, we've got some cars parked around the oval. Didn't realise we were at Noarlunga. Thomas just crowding, trying to get the ball out by hand. Umpire's giving them plenty of time. It's going to be a ball up. As Andrew Rogers mentioned, another goal for the Eagles here without reply from Central, and we have got game on here at the Ponderosa. So we're ticking towards 9 minutes of this final term. Powell burrows his way through the pack and gets rewarded with the free.
Straight up, Paul, let him up! Let him up!
They're hoping for another 25, the Eagles fans. I'll tell you what, Thomas. No. Umpire Rouston saw that one coming. Tips it out long where Jared, he's on his right side too, which is actually his left. There's a conundrum. Jared, does he look to unload? It's going to be a free kick in the 50 by the looks of things to the Eagles. That's going to be played down the ground to Stephen Tiller. So
yeah, it's as a result that the Eagles player was shepherding a Central Districts player, and he just threw him to the ground, and the umpire spotted that and brought it further down the ground. Chris Gowan's obviously debating that with the umpire.
Tiller coming up for his 4th disposal. He has scored from 2 of his other 3. How do the averages pan out for him? Kicks on its way. He knew that was going to happen as soon as we tempted fate out in the full, and Central's to relief from the back pocket.
And that'll be recalled, so they won't be able to play on. Sainsbury, it wasn't his free kick, it'll be taken by Hardy.
No more, no closer, you're right there.
So Hardy with Grokey standing the mark, looks down the line. He's got one free, and Milne over the back. He didn't react quickly enough, and so as a result, forced to go short to Sainsbury, and then turn for Hayes. And now the corridor's open, but Hayes is not so sure. There wasn't anybody there, so he drops it out for Gowans. And then Boyd on the wide expanses of the Ponderosa. Inboard for Eddie Sainsbury. And then Jenner. And now Trent Goodrum down to half forward. Gee, they move the ball well. Havelberg, uncontested. 70, 80 metres from goal. Waits and waits and waits. Umpire lets him. Now he's called play on. And just on cue, he decides to kick it in short as Dunn became available. Breeze blowing from his right. It's not strong, but it will affect the kick. He is a left footer. And called to play on. Decides to go back to Symes. Symes. He belts at 25 from goal. Obsted the back, brought it to the front. Easy as you like. Spur hooks it around and somehow conspires to just sneak it in for the minor score. I would have thought that was a much easier kick than he made it look.
Yeah, it certainly did, but look, it's great. We had two Central players there, front and centre crumbing, and no Eagles players actually with them. But look, it's just great discipline to be able to know that your forwards are going to bring it forward, and then your crumbing forwards are actually going to get front and centre.
23 scoring shots to 13. They are certainly keeping the Eagles in this at the moment, Central. Roundtree wheels around. He's looking for Jarrett, who just goes to ground with some assistance from the Central's players. Mackenzie. So they were calling for deliberate. I can understand where they're coming from, but I don't think even the harshest of umpires would pay that one, surely. Worth asking the question, though. Never die wondering, the Central's fans. Starting to get a little bit impatient now because they can see that the door has been left ajar and an Eagle beak is poking through it. Coming down now is James Boyd, who's been very quiet today by his standards. Looks to go into the attacking zone. Oh, one-handed mark almost taken at the back here for the Eagles. Lewis just keeps his feet taken high. Free kick. Bit untidy from Alan Obst, who's been very, very good today with 4 goals. Let's have a look there. Yep. No question about that any day of the week. Petrenko, who has also been quiet today by his standards. Looking to go into the centre of the Oval West. Stephen Tiller's moved up the ground. Bulldog play down behind play. That's Jay Nash. Kicks it up long towards Goldsworthy. Going along into the direction of Roundtree. Just overshoots him. Williams. Getting a touch of the fumbles. Here's the voice of Sainsbury. Sainsbury in a journey of indecision. We can see Jay Nash is in real strife there behind the play, and the stretcher's coming out, so they're going to have to stop play for that one. Central's leading by 15 points. And just having trouble stopping the play at the moment.
Sounded like a netball game. There were so many whistles going on, but they were clearly worried about Jay Nash. They called for the stretcher straight away. In fact, as Nash went down, Jared Petrenko was actually standing over and he was waving to the trainers. He's in trouble.
Yeah, it was a simple marking contest. We're going to look at this now. It's just a simple marking contest. He must have landed awkwardly. Here's Treby taking the mark. Oh, it's an ankle. Certainly rolled his ankle there. Just overcommitted in the marking contest. He realistically needed to take Lee Treby's body. He's probably not too worried about that at the moment.
No, indeed. I'd suggest, as I said, Petrenko was waving to the trainers. I would suggest there may have been a pop and a crackle that he heard as Jay Nash unfortunately went to ground. 43 games with Essendon, 8 with Port Adelaide. Jay Nash has had an AFL career. We'll just have another look. If you're not interested, or if you are squeamish in any way, look away, because, yeah, well, we'll get Mark Soderstrom onto that, but I suspect there may even be some bone damage there.
I wonder if Petrenko heard a crack.
But Jay Nash coming off the ground. Getting a good round of applause. Interesting stage of this match. Toulouse player 2. Halfway through the final quarter. Central's trailing by Central's leading, I should say, by 15 points. And there's no doubt that the Eagles have thrown down a challenge.
Ball comes out from Powell. A little bit too hot there for Remington. Jared puts out the don't argue. Deciding whether to go by hand or foot. Lewis goes long, looking for a mark and attack. Grokey trying to burst his way through. Taken well by Spur. And it's going to be holding the ball free. Yep, prior opportunity there. Did try to bust the tackle. So the free kick is going to be with Spur. He hands off towards Sainsbury. Sainsbury is out there looking for Havelberg, playing a long, long way up the ground.
Havelberg just settles back over the top for O'Sullivan. A rare possession for him in his comeback to league football after a broken leg in the 2009 grand final. O'Sullivan goes back defensively for Boyd. Boyd this side of the ground. He doesn't have much available. He's got Hardy to his right, or he's got to make the kick to Barmby. He decides to do neither, and nobody goes to him, so he's allowed to bounce. The kick now to centre wing. And again, Eagles have the numbers here. Staple at the back. He's taken to ground quite brilliantly by Hines, and the umpire will come in and ball it up.
I don't think that's good umpiring there. Lee Staple stayed over the footy. took the ball clean. Has he had prior opportunity? I suggest not. So I think that's pretty good umpiring. The bloke with the footy needs to get more protection.
Lewis, interesting hand pass. Quickly off to Petrenko, who found some space in traffic. Long he goes, at the back, couldn't take the mark. Grokey, he's getting more and more frustrated back there. Treby comes through, makes the tackle, but the hand passes are too good. The Centrals have broken open it again. Here's Barmby running off the hand pass from Gowans, and then he drops it short. It only went 10 metres according to the umpire. Now it's a kick that I thought was bad, and Sutherland made it look very bad. Thomas running with spur, looking to the corridor. Not a bad kick, ball punch to the front. Staples there. And will they get away with it, the Eagles? Well, Staple made a sensible decision. His player out there on the far side of the ground in Batley was under pressure. So he decided not to kick it, then he had to kick it, and Batley was good enough to get away from Gowans, and we know he's quick, but he's run down. He backed himself too much, and he was run down by Hayes, and now back the other way. Gowans can make him pay. Well, Chris Gowers looked back to the umpire, wanted the front-on contact. This game's gone up a notch just in the last couple of minutes. Gefrida down the line he goes. Barmby intercepts. He's had a good couple of minutes too. Now Symes drops it in short. Chris Gowans looks inside 50. Eagles have numbers here again. 4-1. Somehow it comes to Obst. He releases a hand pass, and Thomas quickly onto the boot. A goal! It shouldn't have happened.
Yeah, just good persistence. The Eagles weren't able to get it out cleanly out of their defence, and the Dogs worked really hard for that. Here's the Gowans kicks it goes in. You called it right. There's 1-on-4, and somehow Alan Nobbs comes up the footy, tries to claim the mark, but just good hands. And there's Thomas, who's worked hard all day again. What you'd expect from him.
Yeah, just a routine 22 possessions from Thomas, 15 kicks, 7 handballs.
We spoke before about Magarey medal favourites. I reckon by this stage of the count in September, you'll see James Allen and Paul Thomas on a very similar number of votes. They have had sterling starts to the season, both of those gentlemen. North Adelaide, of course, playing across town at the moment against Nord. Kick goes up towards it, centre half forward, cut off well by Sansbury. Just heard the voice at the last minute. Barmby looking up for Williams. It's just punched away from him. Jarrod was at the fall of the ball. Puts on the afterburners, kicks out long towards Roundtree where it sits for him. He needs to hold up. Needed to just hold up, chips in board. Gets the mark further up from Treby. Now with this breeze gusting up, that might just about put Treby within goal scoring range. He has kicked 2 today.
It's been a positive for the Eagles today. Still finding his way back into league footy, but look, he's a very good player and generally a good kick for goal. Just breathe some life back into this contest.
Coming up for his 10th disposal. He's got a couple of players moving around him, but he's going to back himself as he should, as a senior player. Treby unloads. He's read that win pretty well, I tell you what. He has slotted that one home, and there is still some life in this contest for sure, Andrew. 10-14-74. The Eagles 9-5-59 on the edge of time on.
Yeah, as I said, one of the positives out of the day for the Eagles. Roundtree's worked hard all day, as he said, in and under player, and just some good composure there under pressure. And Treby, as I said, he's a good kick for goal, and as I said, the positive out of the day, 3 goals is a good reward as he finds his way back into the top level of SANFL footy.
Because he won the 07 Best and Fairest with the Eagles. So, important centre break now. Sutherland almost had it. Roundtree, was he taken high? Symes was the tackler. Umpire said no. The Eagles need a quick break. The Doggies are super skilled in so many areas of the game, but certainly closing down a match like this is one of the things they're really good at. Sutherland was too high. That'll be a free kick on the hard-working Roundtree. Jarrod's off and running on this side of the ground, and that's where he goes. And Luke Jarrod can break and go long to the goal square. He decides to go to the lead. Tiller went to the pocket. There are big pockets out here, and even then, deep and wide pockets, they ran out of room.
Yeah, the decision wasn't right. So we get a look at the scores of Prospect, and Nord have certainly broken that game open and looked like being successful in that game. But Luke Jarrod, as a senior player, put some pressure on the goal square, put some pressure on the Central's defenders. You've got 15 points, you've got a bit of momentum. Let's get it in there. Let's get it in there quickly so you get half a chance.
McKenzie Real little sand wedge. Back to Lewis. Lewis unloads from the arc of 50. Kicks on its way. Wrong side of the post. Margin back to 14 points. 21 minutes gone in this term. There will be a bit of time on after the injury to Nash.
There will.
And they need to roll the dice, the Eagles. For Centrals, look, they can afford to slow the game down now. Just they get possession of the footy, just chip it around, just work hard to find some space. But for the Eagles, they need to get the footy back and they need to roll the dice and maybe run a little bit forward to the play to try to get 3 goals to win the game.
Symes inboard to Jenner. Jenner long towards half forward and coming and meeting at Obst, who's had an excellent game up forward this afternoon. Obst into the corridor. Jenner ran on. He just worked hard from 55. He's hit up the sand wedge again, long, and the mark taken. Ryan Williams, he's been very good this afternoon as well. And he'll kick from just 10 metres out on the slightest of angles.
Or the other method, of course, is defence, is to actually do attack. And actually, look, it was just clean movement. They used the footy well, got it in quickly, and there's that kick to the top of the square. Puts a lot of pressure on defenders. And I'd expect a player of Ryan Williams quality to finish this.
Well, you do look at Williams and his performances out here. He's stayed on, having been recruited through the AFL system to Port Adelaide. Only played a couple of AFL games, but you do wonder how he was not able to find a more permanent game at the highest level.
Yeah, certainly was a developing midfielder during the early 2000s and when his time at Port Adelaide, but then he's become one of the premier on-ballers and one of the first picked in this Central District side, and just protected the fall of the ball there really well, and pretty much think that would be the game.
Just an update on Jay Nash. We saw him get carried off moments ago on a stretcher. Word out of the Central District room from the medical staff is it's a knee and could be pretty serious.
Gee, not good signs there at all for Nash. Sutherland gets it out at the centre break. Just overrunning it was Jared. Williams in there again. Allman put his body in the contest bravely. Gee, shoveling it out there. That was almost a throw. But we'll back the umpire's judgment. Eagles. There's pumpers out here. He's got a couple of players of support. One of those is Sansbury. Just soccers it off the ground straight into the arms of Lewis. Lewis unloads, going long and direct into the 50. He's looking for the mark out there from Grokey, who wheels around. He's got Powell moving out. Powell unloads. It's going to be to the wrong side of the post. Minor score for the Eagles. Margin back to 19 points. 24 minutes gone. I reckon there's probably 5 minutes left or so in this.
Well, if your best defence is attack, they're off and running again, the doggies. They've got it all the way to Thomas. Inboard, such good skills. Just able to hit the man. Goodrum decided to slow things down. Up comes the lead from Hayes. Looks back towards the corridor. High goes Hayes. Wasn't the greatest of kicks. Jared came and met it. He's been good this afternoon for the Eagles. He thumped that 50 metres down the ground. A good kick. Havelberg brought it to the front, Barmby. And then Sansbury. And then flanking him out the back was Spur. And they've got a runner in Symes. Symes bouncing off half-back and supported by Spur, who ran on. And to think, he almost gave it away at SANFL level. Journeyed back to Brisbane, had a look at the Queensland competition where he came from, and decided, no, I'll stick it out in Adelaide. Inside 50, Williams. Oh, gee, they've just got a plethora of people who know how to play the game properly. So Williams from wide out. I think he might back. Well, I thought he'd go short, but he doesn't. He pops it up to the goal square. And Obst in the middle of the pack. He scattered 3 Eagles and kicked the goal.
Yeah, just kept his feet in the marking contest was the key there. Once again, it's long and strong to the hot spot, and Alan Obst has created a fantastic contest all day. Here's the thing. Goes in long. We had 3 Eagles defenders who go up against one of them. If it wasn't him, it would have been Kyle Jenner who finishes off. So 5 goals for the day. It's just a fantastic reward for, look, his perseverance, but also his competitiveness at centre-half forward.
He was delisted at North Melbourne. Bulldogs officials were beating his door down to come back, and they would be pretty pleased with themselves with that decision today. The margin is now out to 25 points. So Brad Symes has been very busy today with, I reckon, about 28 or so disposals.
Oh, you cheated. Yeah.
I did, thank you, Moggy. I did see you flash that one up. Certainly been a few busy players out there today. Goodrum, one of them. Getting it out now is the player in Dunn. Kicks it out long towards the feet of the big fella in Obst again, handballing back. Oh, Goodrum hasn't heard them coming. Lewis. Now it's with Almond. Chips over the top. Got a player arcing into some space for him in the form of Treeby. Treeby, he's got Powell over the top, elected not to go there. He's gone longer towards Grokey. Oh, Adam Grokey. That's just about one of the marks of the day. Perfect position A for that one. Put the knee in the back, leant back and took a lovely hanger. Let's have a look at this one.
Yeah, just a fantastic. Hardy's caught underneath the footy, but look, it's realistically quick, direct footy. Get it in quickly. Give Grokey a chance one-on-one. As I said earlier, he's one of the premier centre forwards in the competition.
So Adam Grokey yet to kick a goal today from what will be his 13th disposal coming up. Kicks on its way. That's his first goal. Too little too late, you would tend to think, for the Eagles. The margin is back to 19 points, but an encouraging sign there for Grokey to finish off with.
Yeah, it's his 150th SANFL goal. So, of course, fantastic reward. Has been a real journey. You know, he's really struggled to cement his spot, but the last 3 or 4 years, he's become one of the better centre-half forwards in the competition. And him and Hardy have had a great battle today. Hardy certainly held him down, but just feel as though the Eagles haven't used Adam Grokey as well as perhaps they should.
Originally from the North Adelaide club, and then down to Oval Avenue, success was found. So the margin's still 19 points. Boyd out of the middle for Centrals. Nicely done by Jenabutta to the front. Sullivan running onto it. Does he have the leg? No, he doesn't. But Obst was there. No, he was there, but he offended in some way. And off the ball, don't know if you noticed it, but Chris Gowans was handing out one. Jarrett. And just a short pass finds Treeby. And another dog day. Another job done. So in the end, 19 points, reasonably comfortable for Central District. 12-14-86, the Eagles 10-7-67, and the Doggies join Westies at the top of the SANFL ladder.
And deservedly so. They certainly controlled the first half and were the dominant team, and just really inaccurate kicking on the scoreboard didn't really put the Eagles away. For the Eagles, I thought they persisted well in the second half. They certainly would have learned from that. Saw the bottom 6 players of the Central Districts were certainly far superior, and some of the younger Eagles players will certainly benefit from the experience to the pressure that the Dogs put on them today. But once again, it was quite a comprehensive victory. They didn't really at any stage really get within the 2-goal margin that they could put some real pressure on. And as I said, at the end of the day, the better team won on the day. But certainly for the Eagles, it's not all bad.
No, certainly not, and it's all good for Central District, and certainly when they've got a key forward like Alan Obst performing, so does it makes a big difference.
Yeah, terrific. The vice-captain, the best big man on the ground. Well done, mate. Now just easing back into footy. 4 last week, 5 today. It's terrific.
Yeah, a couple of lucky ones to the goal square, but just wrapped coming to a side that's playing good footy in good form. It's kicking goals is great, but we're winning footy, which is great.
You left the side, I think, back in 07 after winning a flag. You've come back. Not much has changed besides a few different faces, really.
It's just terrific. Obviously a few new boys, but the culture's the same. Same coach, same CEO. It's bloody enjoyable. I'm loving my time here.
How have you found it coming back into football at this level? Of course, you had an interrupted start because of that jaw you got off the field. But how's it been getting back into SANFL footy?
It's been good. It's been tough. It's been a lot tougher. I personally think that the SANFL is it's a tougher competition than the VFL that I've been used to. It's older people, bigger bodies. It's been tough, which has made it enjoyable. Yeah, there's certainly no easy kicks out here.
Have you felt the competition's changed much since you actually left it, though, as well?
It's still a tough competition. It's certainly not any easier, that's for sure.
And, of course, the boys travel along very nicely. I think the Eagles were touted, perhaps, as your biggest challenges for this year. How tough were they out there?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I don't know what we won by, but it was a bloody physical game. And even early on in the year, we had a trial match where they gave us a good little pasting. So they'll certainly be one of the teams to beat this year for sure.
Well, mate, you're averaging 4.5 goals a game. It's a good start. Welcome back to SANFL footy. Well done, Obsty.
Thanks very much.
Alan Obst there, rated best on ground by us. And Central District, well, they just keep on marching on. And in round 8, they have South Adelaide. And they have to travel to play South. And then they've got North Adelaide and Norwood in round 10. So that's their next few weeks.
Yeah, look, just their level of consistency is a little bit scary, to be honest. They maintain their level for the full season. They ran the game out better than the Eagles in, and they were certainly running harder through the corridor. They gave their forwards more opportunity in their work rate. And as I said earlier, how hard they work when the opposition have the footy really sets them apart from any team in the competition.
To the right, the rooms, the expansive rooms as they are now, maybe the rooms that have sent Central slightly broke. They can't afford to update their lights, and they will go down the tunnel and enjoy their new facilities, but they can't afford to update their lights. So you just wonder, they're under 18 side, not performing so well. Maybe there it is an end to the era, but it certainly is not going to happen this season.
Yeah, how long have we been calling about an end of an era? It just never seems to happen. They just keeping on. That culture that Alan Obb spoke about is drilled down through their players. And, we talked about, maybe 2006 might have been the end of the era after the Eagles got the premiership off them, but they continue to evolve. They continue to bring their younger players forward. They selectively recruit, and they just continue they come into the culture and the demands, the challenges that Roy Laird puts in front of them. Their leadership roots demands they play to a certain style. They're good structures around the contest, and they move the ball quickly. They all come in and play the same game plan. Yeah. If you don't play your role, well, unfortunately, you don't fit into the Central District's mould.
Well, it must be said, and over the last decade, their junior program indicated by where they are right now, because they have some significant injury issues, and yet they're still able to find the players to do the job, to conduct themselves in the way that is expected at league level.
We love our club and we play to win. Riding the boats with a grin at Central's come on, made from the stride. Teamwork is a thing that talks 1, 3, 2, 1 for all and all for one's the way we play at Central. We are the mighty top dogs.
Alan Obb's back at Central District and enjoying his time back here, and look, to have key forwards of the quality of Alan Obbs coming in. They lost Daniel Schell after last season, so no doubt they would have been beating a path. Chris Grant would have been beating a path to the door of Alan Obbs to ensure that once he was dropped off the AFL list of North Melbourne, that he was back here at Central's.
Well, he's a Central Districts player. He came from here, played his junior footy here, so you can see that they come back in and they adapt straight away. He's very comfortable here, and he's certainly added to their list.
Yeah, we've only seen him up forward, but when you've got a guy like Daniel Havelberg who can go forward or back, and we know today he started up forward but he finished down back, well, you know the quality of what they have out here at Central District. And Roy Laird, he is genuinely a good coach. You can just see Daniel Havelberg's control of the ball there to kick his second goal of the afternoon. In fact, he kicked the first 2 goals of the afternoon for Central District. Roy Laird obviously clearly has such huge respect out here, and the ability to get the best out of a playing group and a style that obviously suits them.
Yeah, he just keeps challenging them, and as I said, I think he's very much helped by the senior group of leaders in the Gowanses and the Thomases. They're very demanding. They demand that a player plays a certain way, and if they don't, well, as I said, they don't stay at this footy club, and they just keep keeping on. And Havelberg is a player that he demands that they actually play a number of positions. They cannot be categorised just as a full forward or a forward pocket or a centre-half forward. They've got to be able to play a number of positions, and that serves them really well. If they are struggling on the footy, you can throw a Trent Grudram in there, you can throw a Jay Nash in there, you can throw a Dunn in there. On his unnatural leg there, kicks a goal with his right foot. They must play multiple roles here. They must be able to play that, and I think that serves them really well as the game gets quicker and there are more people that rotate through the midfield.
And look, they were challenged this afternoon, and we're quite impressed with this lad too, Nathan Batley. Going into goal, he was lightning, kicked a couple of goals this afternoon, just his second game at this level. He obviously has a future in football.
I think so, but also I think that's a positive out of the day for the Eagles. They have exposed a number of junior players to the level of the expectations that it's required at SANFL level, and people like Nathan Batley and Nathan Rayner and even Matthew Goldsworthy and even Angus Roundtree will continue to build on this, and you can see there that they'll get better from this experience.
There's no doubt about that. Paul Thomas, what a leader he's been. As we just quickly go through the quarter by quarters, All the damage done really in the opening quarter. 22 points the margin in favour of Centrals, 26 at half-time, 21 at three-quarter time, and in the end 19 points. So it was that opening quarter that did the damage. And in terms of the goal kickers, well, we know Alan Obst was the dominant forward on the ground with 5 goals, Paul Thomas with a couple, Daniel Havelberg with a couple, and Lee Treby with 3 up-forward positive signs for the Eagles. Quickly through those statistics for the afternoon, as you commented at three-quarter time, things were fairly even.
They were fairly even, but once again you can see the Dogs have had more of the footy, more marks, just more of everything, and so at the end of the day the right team won the game.
Absolutely. Mark Soderstrom's down in the rooms. He's got Roy Laird with him, and another day, another win for Roy.
Well, it's pretty commonplace down here, isn't it? But Roy, I think at the start of the year, we just said this to Alan Obst out there as well, Eagles probably touted as your biggest challenges. How did you assess them today?
I thought they were really competitive, and we look at half time and had 16 scoring shots to 5, but to their credit, most of them were probably under a fair bit of pressure. We'd like to think we've got improvement in front of us. We should have converted a bit better, and hopefully earlier on maybe blew the game open a bit more.
I think losing Daniel Schell last year to retirement probably would have scratched your head a little bit about how you're going to replace him, but very fortunate to have Alan Obst come back.
Yeah, look, we were, and not only, he's kicked 5, I think, took some nice marks, but just the mere presence. He's got a presence when he attacks the footy in the air, and your smaller blokes thrive off that, so no, he was very good.
Roy, Neil Cross upstairs. Look, I know you've had terrible injury problems this season. Another one this afternoon with Jay Nash. What's the early signs with him?
Oh, look, they're saying it's a knee, and at the moment it's a bit 50-50 whether it's an anterior or something else. So until we get checked out, we won't know. But unfortunate for Nashy, and we're all hopeful for him.
Upstairs, Roy, another one, just talking of injuries there, Chad O'Sullivan, fantastic to see him back. I think it's been a 19-month wait, but pretty quickly he misses a shot at goal. Chris Gowan straight into him, so the standards don't drop.
Yeah, no, he learns his lessons pretty quick again, doesn't he? No, look, he was obviously really itchy for a goal and wanted to have his moment in the sun, and fortunately got a goal. Look, he had some touches. He looked a bit rough around the edges, Chad, but it's all about some game time for him and consistency of training. And look, if he can get through, though, he's played a game now, so that's the first plus. If he can get through and be, near the effective player he was before, he's going to be very good for us.
I know it was a long time and a big journey for him to get back. Was there a bit of concern about whether he would make it back though during that?
Yeah, a lot of that, a lot of doubts. He probably, just as most footballers would, he was trying to come back a bit too soon on a number of occasions, so we had to slow him right up. And in the end, the concern now becomes soft tissue when you've had that sort of injury, but we're looking after him, and he's a natural bloke who looks after himself, so I'm sure he's loving his footy again.
You've got a big job against South Adelaide next week, but before that tomorrow, you've got an even bigger job, Roy. You've got to take over, I think, the under-11s. Your umpiring's at Angle Park versus Smithfield. Are you ready for the boys?
Richard Williams and Tim Pfeiffer, look out.
Are you going to take any lip?
Oh, I've taken it from our own players here often enough, so no, water off a duck's back. No, look forward to it, be good.
Good luck tomorrow, mate.
Thanks, fellas, thank you.
Roy Laird, and you fancy, like he's taken to coaching, duck to water. I reckon he'd take up umpiring and you wouldn't argue with him. Well, let's go through one of the reasons that Centrals are so successful. A guy like Paul Thomas, fantastic leader for this club, a school teacher by trade, spent some time in the AFL. It's one of those amazing things as to why he only played 8 games with the Essendon Football Club.
Yeah, he just mirrors the consistency of Central Districts. He's had an outstanding start to the season. You thought his best was really good, but his start of the year has been absolutely fantastic this year. But it's not just anything about just the way, it's just the way he goes about it, how he competes, how he tackles. He just sets such high standards as far as the club's concerned, and provides great leadership for these younger players as they start to integrate themselves into this side.
Yeah, 24 possessions, 11 marks, and look, you wonder, Andrew Jarman won Magarey's in 87 and 97, 10 years apart for Paul Thomas, 2004 and who knows, 2011. Well, Eddie Sainsbury, another one who's come back from the AFL, been so important for Central District across the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, I thought today his rebound and carry from defence was really important. He was certainly one of the players that was released across half-back, and the Eagles tend to let him go a little bit, but his ball usage and his decision-making, and I reckon if we did a stat today on metres gained, I reckon Eddie Sainsbury would be the player that would be highlighted. And I just thought, once again, his foot skills are really good, but also the way he used the footy, and as I said, the way he runs and carries and he sets things up. He's just got a cool head, doesn't panic under pressure. So I think he's a very important player to this side.
You're right up there with the new terminology. It's almost like rugby league now. You talk about metres gained for players, and they are taking that stat now. 26 possessions, 9 marks for Eddie Sainsbury, one of the best this afternoon. We picked our goal of the day to a player who's only playing his second game of SANFL League football, Nathan Batley from the Eagles. And Andrew, you commented at the time, he's got a history as a sprinter, and have a look at that. What a shot.
He has. He was a 400-metre state runner and decided probably about 2 or 3 years ago he came on the Eagles' radar as an underage player. But that's great front and centre crumbing there. And as I said, once he gets goal side of you, it's good night. You know, you're chasing dust sort of thing. So he was one of the bright sparks for the Eagles today.
Yeah, a goal in his first game on debut, a couple of goals in his second game. So we're looking for big things by the time he gets to his 13th and 14th game of football. You never know.
Yeah, exactly right.
Mark of the day, don't want to put too much pressure on him. Mark of the day, let's look at what was a frustrating day for Adam Grokey, but in the closing stages of this match, the mark of the day, if you look at this closely, he almost gets his foot back on the ground before the ball arrives.
Yeah, I thought it was a great battle. Hardy, who really put some pressure on him as far as body pressure on him and didn't allow him to go with the footy. But Grokey, I just think the Eagles used him well today. I think he's one of the better aerialists in the competition, and they didn't kick it enough to him one-on-one.
Okay, that was our mark of the day for Adam Grokey. Let's look through the full round of results thus far, because there's still one match to go. And am I stringing it out long enough to notice that, yes, Norwood by 27 points in the other match played this afternoon. Norwood beating North Adelaide by 27 points. The interesting note out of that game for all the Crows fans out there, Taylor Walker, 7 goals for Norwood. They were very glad to have him back. Of course, last night, Westies by 37 over Glenelg. And, of course, Central's by 19 points here. Let's go down to the boys on the boundary this afternoon. Sodas and, of course, Chris Kendall. And Chris, we're at the Richmond Oval last night. In fact, so was Sodas. And Todd Grimer, interesting decision to be reported for high contact. It didn't look much on Logan Hill, but nevertheless he was reported, and Logan Hill did go off the ground.
Yeah, look, I think this one will probably get thrown out at the end of the day, Sodas. But on face value, you can see why the umpires erred on the side of caution and reported it. Yeah, look, it is a bit high. The player has got his head over the ball, but really not a lot in it. But I don't think they'd crucify the umpire for making the initial report.
I think Toddy Grimer can be happy that Logan did look like he lifted his head a little bit there. If he had kept the head down, he might have been in a bit of trouble, given that, if we've seen this now a number of times, if you're going to hit the head, you're going to get in trouble.
Yeah, he did go down to the rooms, did Logan Hill, and he spent three-quarter time in the rooms, but eventually he went back onto the ground very late in that match, and good win for Westies. Terry Malira last week for Port Adelaide, he got a match for the report that we're about to see. And again, Chris, what are your thoughts on that?
Fair call on that one. He's lifted himself off the ground, so the intent's not entirely at the ball. And the other thing is his eyes aren't really on the ball at any stage there also. I've got no problem with that one being a suspension.
Probably the biggest controversy over this suspension, though, is that the Maggies are playing the Interstate Cup today. Now, given that the AFL won't allow any players to play in the competition who are suspended from their local comp, so he wasn't allowed to play. So considering that he's going to serve that suspension there, he's allowed to play for the Magpies next week in the SANFL, which has probably put the nose out of joint on a couple of the SANFL clubs, but that came from advice of the AFL, so he will be available next week.
So he doesn't get 2 matches effectively,
no,
he just gets the one. Oh, well, I suppose that's sensible. Let's talk about another report, and Andrew, we'll start with you on this one. The Alan Obst report found not guilty. We certainly thought there wasn't a hell of a lot in this when we saw it live last weekend.
Yeah, it's not much difference. He's certainly got his head over the footy. I think at AFL level he would probably be in a fair bit of trouble, but certainly at SANFL level it's a little bit more liberal. I don't think there's too much in that. The player's not overly hurt. Let's just get it up and going. I don't think Alan Obst, I think the Eagles might have liked him to have got a week. That might have changed today's game a little bit, but that's all hindsight.
Another player reported and guilty, Adam Koshel, and again, head over the ball, Chris.
No question about this one. He got the 2 games, and I reckon he's a little bit lucky to get the 2 for that. There was no malicious intent in this one, guys, but he has hit the player high, and you have to protect the ball carrier in that one. Yeah, I reckon that's a fair call.
Well, the way the SANFL system works is a little bit different to the AFL. The difference being that they don't assess the incidents the way they do in the AFL. They only assess the results. So if he is found guilty, which he is done, then they then go saying, was it high impact, was it negligent, and all that sort of thing. So in that terms, for the big cocky, he didn't plead guilty, so he didn't get his 20% reduction, and he did have a bad record too, so there's another 25% possible reduction if you have a good record. That meant he ended up with 250 points, 100 points a game, so the big man out for 2 weeks there.
Thanks for the explanation, Sodas. Yes, it is complex, isn't it, these days? All right, let's talk about next week. Eagles now, pretty important game against Westies, I would have thought, boys.
Look, I'm super impressed with Westies at the moment. So as you said, we both saw that game last night. The way they move the ball is just really impressive. And the thing is now, when they're in a position to kill teams off, they do that. They really put the foot down against Glenelg last night, and they were very good about that. Eagles just seem to lack the killer instinct a little bit today, I thought.
I think what's important with West Adelaide too is our lowest scoring team in the competition last year, averaging 65 points. They're up around the 99 mark, 91 points again last night. And given they were missing Adam Hartlett and also Brad Fisher, I thought it was a fantastic effort. I think they had 12 goal kickers, but their little guys really willed them back into the game. I think Jimmy Izard, who else was there? That was pretty important. Daniel Kerr.
Sam Izard wasn't too bad.
Sam Izard was good on debut as well. So they're going very well, Westies, at the moment. And you might have noticed too, Chris, because we have some Manchester City fans on the crew, our director Paul Chadwick, also associate producer Chris Keane, they are City nuts tonight, FA Cup final, so go City for them.
Fair enough. Thanks, boys. Thanks for your time this afternoon. Okay, Eagles with the job in front of them next week. Let's have a look at what's coming up on ABC 1. Tomorrow from 3 o'clock, it's Australia against New Zealand in women's soccer. They played a couple of days ago, and it was a 3-0 result for Australia over New Zealand. Game 2 tomorrow from 3 o'clock on ABC 1. We look forward to our coverage. Next week, our game of the day is that Eagles-Westies match. The two games on Friday night, Sturt against Glenelg and Norwood against Port Adelaide, and then the Panthers have a Sunday game against Central District way down there at Noarlunga. And when the doggies come visiting, gee, they're trouble.
They are, certainly. In good touch at the moment. I fear for Ron Fuller and his men down there at Noarlunga.
Thanks for your company this afternoon. Fantastic win again for those doggies by 19 points over the Eagles.
Embark on a truly magnificent adventure to the roof of Africa, the Great Rift Valley. Discover why it's known as the cradle of humanity in this spectacular 3-part series that explores the inaccessible and discovers the most elusive.
This is a Kipunji never filmed before.
The Great Rift, Africa's wild